As we go, we are now live.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Group Up Podcast. We are here for the great Season 8 debate. A new season is upon us. And no, that is not an ad in my call. That is another participant. That is another participant, and I will introduce them now. In the bottom right, coming through for the podcast is Jaws. Jaws, what's up?
How's it going? Thanks for having me on. I love doing these things, man. They're a lot of fun. I love discussing patch notes and stuff. It gets everybody hyped up and like heated, and it's very funny. I like it.
That's what we're all about. We're getting people heated. That's what we like to do here. All right.
Yeah.
And speaking of getting heated, in the top left, one to often get there is my man Freedo. Freedo, how you doing?
Good. Season 7 was the most I ever played Overwatch 2. I think
Yeah.
I'm
Whoa.
addicted to power creep swapathon game. I must admit.
True. I mean, that must be because that's quite the phrase. I think I might have played the least amount of Overwatch I've ever played in Season 7. So we've kind of deviated on that path. But in the bottom left, rounding out our guests for tonight is Eskay. Eskay, how are you doing?
I'm great. Hello. I'm in my Christmas spirit right now.
You are. I can see that. I love the overlay. Hope you guys appreciate the. Those who are listening on streaming services will not get to see the joy of the many PNGs, the screen inception, and the plushies all making a valuable appearance in SK's overlay. But SK, how are you?
We got Subway Surfers too.
How are you ranking on the scale of playing a lot and not playing so much?
I'm playing a lot, but it's not because I'm having fun.
Based.
But the new hero is very fun, so I'm playing him a lot, and that is part of it. But
Interesting.
Well, the new hero is something we will discuss. We will touch on Mauga, the whole of whatever's been announced in Season 8, so Winter Wonderland, new weapon skins, of course the patch notes as well, and some whispers from the devs of internal testings on things like hero bans and other solutions to the swapathon that has become Overwatch 2 now. But yeah, let's just touch base with each of our guests first and foremost, how they rate on the surface. We're not very deep into it, obviously, but everything they've heard and everything they've experienced so far of Season 8, starting with Jaws. So Jaws, just your general overall feeling on Season 8 so far.
I think it's pretty good, honestly. I'm enjoying ranked. I think that we'll obviously get into the patch notes later, but it didn't really change much. But I think people, at least at like high ranks, are getting bored of only playing Sig. So like everybody's playing like Winston and Ryan and stuff now. So we've reached the point where everybody is so bored that they just play what they want, and that is the most fun Overwatch can be, is just playing whatever. And all the hog players like rejoicing because now they can one-shot people again. You know, like it's I think it's good. I haven't played Mauga obviously because it's not ranked yet, but yeah, I mean for support at least it's quite fun.
Nice. Okay. Freedo, how are you rating it so far?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of controversial changes with Season 8 that I've seen a lot of people upset about, and as well mixed reactions to Mauga as a character, which we don't really understand. But this is just them like putting the gas pedal down with the counterpick metagame of this game. There's like cute things that people hate, like Winston's buff where he goes through armor. But as a Winston player, I like knocking off Brig armor with one charge shot. That feels great. I don't know if it's balanced or not, but that's just kind of how this game is. It's like all of a sudden your hero has some wacky interaction against something, and go run at it and enjoy. Like that's what this game is for the most part. It's very matchup reliant, and I think you can have fun if you learn what those matchups are and counterpick. That's basically it. Opens up a wider discussion though of like how many heroes are you expected to play in this game, which is why I think they're finally talking about thinning that out somehow, because otherwise you get in these rather endless counterpick battles, not just in the tank category, of course, but in all of them. And Mauga is just like another insane just counterpick type hero because he gets countered and he counters. So that's just, it's getting more severe. I'm not going to say worse because, like I said earlier, I kind of like it in a way, but it's also pretty brutal. So that's my take.
Yeah, a lot of good things to raise there, and all again points that we will touch on. SK, how about you? What's your overall feelings and impressions so far of everything you've seen and heard?
I'm happy. I really like the new hero. He has a ton of depth, a lot more than I thought he would. And yeah, the new seasons are always fun to get your 50 wins, at least for the very weak and like really high low queue times are the very first week, the queue times are really fast and super high low, which is like really rare, and all the lobbies are super stacked, so that's fun. But I've been getting more like doomer about the patch notes as time goes on because I feel like Mauga really opened my eyes up to see how bad this counter picking thing is getting. But I'll talk about way more about that later.
Well, obviously, a very encouraged topic on this podcast. Perhaps the arch villain of the counter swapping hatred train is me. So, definitely, I think that is kind of speaks to my feelings in Overwatch at the moment, which is that I've never been a fan of the counter swapping, and it just feels to have gotten to a nth degree. And we can talk about that when we do talk into the patch notes. But yeah, I think my personal assessment is that I think there's like these two simultaneous things that exist that are slightly contradictory but not, which is that I think the devs are doing a great job and I'm not having fun. That's like the two stances that I feel, which is that I think they're doing a great job of releasing stuff. There's a lot of hype around the game and they're like slowly building the foundations of a good game. It's just the direction that they're going is not one that I'm particularly happy with or particularly enjoy. And so my personal like the joy of Overwatch has been a little bit drained. Like I play a fair amount, but almost it becomes after a while quite chore-ish. Like it starts to feel like a chore after a couple hours of playing Overwatch, where previously, it should feel like a joy. Now I'm like, oh, this again? Like, okay, they're gonna fucking swap this again. Especially if you play tank, I think it's the worst, where you're just like, I can't play 2 fights without like the whole enemy team just making my life miserable. Now I have to play into this. So there's a lot of factors to it that we can get into, but I think that's my overall feeling. I will say Mauga's really fun, and again, I think another element of stuff that they're executing well is the kind of release of Mauga has been, I think, very well received. He seems like a really fun dude, which I think is nice. He's like a really good character to add to the Overwatch spectrum, and I do enjoy his kit. Although I do feel I'm curious what Eskay thoughts, because she said she's really kind of opened her eyes to Mauga, but like my experience of playing him in quick play for a couple of days was just, it kind of brains down the game a little bit. It just becomes very spammy. It's just like you and the other tank, or at least I mostly face Mauga mirrors, so just me and the other Mauga just spamming each other endlessly. And then you kind of get locked into these do or die duels where, like, because your mechanic of healing is self-healing through damage, you're just kind of like, well, I can't actually escape this now. I'm locked in this, like, I'm just going to hold down M1, M2, and I hope that the abilities that everyone else is throwing impact this fight. Like, I hope my Kiriko cleanses me if they nade me. I hope my Ana nades them, or whatever it is, right? You're just kind of like, well, I can't stop, because the minute I stop, my self-heal cuts and I die, and I can't turn and run because I'll die in the process. So you're kind of like, I'm here and I'm shooting, which is in its own way fun. But yeah, I felt my brain dumbing down a little bit the longer I was playing Mauga, so I had to stop for a while. But I will now defer to my guests as to what their experiences of Mauga have been. I'll go to Eskay first, because you said you've kind of really enjoyed him, Eskay. So talk to me about Mauga.
Yeah, so you're pretty much right about the mirror. The mirror feels a lot like whoever has a better supports wins, because there's not much like it's not hard to hit every single bullet on a target that big, and you're both just like sitting there shooting at each other. It comes more down to like cooldown usage, and you can outplay if the other guy has better supports. I think the most interesting part about him and the depth that I found was when I started using the charge to run away and not to go in. Because if you're playing like it's more fun when you're playing against heroes that aren't Mauga, but I was playing against like Zenyatta and Roadhog, which like if I get hooked and I'm a huge target, so I'm going to get hooked, I will get discorded and I'll get blown up immediately. But there's a lot of ways that you can play around that by like peeking, getting the discord, having the discord drop, and then running into like a place where the hog can't hook you because he can't hook you while you're running. There's like there's so much to this, and like whenever I'm playing against an Ana, if I get anti-naded, I'll be like ready to take the anti-nade and then I'll run away. And then as soon as her anti-nade is gone, my cooldown is shorter than hers, so I get to use my run to go back in. It's like the really short cooldown of the run makes the hero have so much depth, and I find it incredibly fun. Plus, you can really min-max the way you use the primary fire and the secondary fire because it has a charge up time. So whenever I'm super far range and I'm shooting someone to make them burn, I'll be spam charging up my secondary fire. My chat called it edging. That's the best way I could think. That's the easiest way to describe it. But I'm holding left click and I'm edging my second one. So then I let go of left click and the second one's instantly ready to start shooting them. It saves you like a little bit of time. And I don't know, the hero just is so cool, and the way you use your ult can be so creative. Like, yeah, past the like just standing there and shooting at the other Mauga and hoping your Ana is better. I love him so much. He's awesome.
That's cool, yeah, and that's great to see. That's the kind of stuff that comes when you do grind a hero. I was talking to Yul, and Yul was telling me that he's like, I was like, I'm spending, what did he say, like 100 hours, like going to get like 100 hours of Mauga in before he drops into comp. So he's just like sat there hard grinding the hero, and that's where we do see the benefit of players like yourself who love doing that kind of stuff, because you see these nuances, you see these like little minor interactions that otherwise go amiss. Again, like I said, I was trying to get a non-Mauga mirror and I just gave up. So I was like, fuck this shit. I'll find out in comp how a non-Mauga mirror looks like. Let's take it to Jaws next. Jaws, have you managed? You said you haven't played any Mauga, but have you played any quick play or? Hello guys, SCB here, and the Group Up podcast is back, and I'd like to take just 30 seconds of your time to talk to you about two quick things. Firstly, Patreon. If you enjoy the content, then please do consider supporting directly, because Patreon takes only about 10% of the money you give, where YouTube and Twitch take 40 and 50% respectively. So if you'd like to support the podcast, then that is the best way to do so. Secondly, if you're someone who enjoys video essays or detailed analysis of movies, TV, or anime, then please do check out my second channel, The Soak, where I'll be making videos about those kind of topics much more frequently, and where a lot of my attention will go beyond just Overwatch. It would mean the absolute world to me if you guys would check it out, but that's it for now. Let's head back to the discussion.
Yeah, like a little, like a very, very small amount, like nothing crazy so much. I only play ranked pretty much. I don't really play quick play or anything like that. So it's a bit, and I don't play tank either. So I'm like, oh, I don't play either of those things that are required right now to talk about Mauga. But like on the surface of things, I think SK's right. Like, and especially with how long the hero's been out for, no one's gonna have found like the way to min max the hero, which will happen, a few months down the line where it's like, oh my god, wait, Mauga's actually kind of OP, maybe. I don't think that will necessarily be the case because of just how the hero is designed, like how big of a target he is, like hog size. He's got a little bit of armor, which is better than hog, but like you need to be shooting people like to get health back, and his sustain is like kind of strange compared to like a lot of other tanks. I don't particularly think the hero is going to be very good at like super high level because supports just dominate him. Like it's crazy how good they are against him. Like Ana specifically, Zen, like even something like Lucio could do a number on him because he's playing at range, like kind of poking, and then you're kind of like stepping up, like Eskay was saying, like, oh, little shoot, and then I'm gonna run back because it got discorded, and then it's just like you're playing that game of like, I'm trying to make you burn cooldowns kind of by like walking up, and then I have to pedal back, and then I can go in with my shift. And then like Lucio can just be like, well, anyway, we're going to speed out now. Like as soon as you go in, like I think there's a lot of things that can kind of count him in the support lineup. But I also, it's kind of more of a meta point about like heroes in relation to Mauga. I don't think he has to be good at all. And I don't think any hero that is released has to be good at the highest level and like, oh, must pick like Sigma, at least in the last patch, a little bit this patch as well. He's still very good. And like Poke is still very, very strong. Like, he sometimes feels like a must pick. I don't think any hero that is released needs to be that. And I think as long as the hero is fun for like the very casual audience and like for the majority of people, I think that's fine. He doesn't have to be good. He just has to be able to kill people and like feel impact in the game. And I think Mauga does that. And with his ultimate, if you trap 5 people in, you're going to die instantly. But like if you trap 1 or 2, you can feel very impactful in the game. And I think that's what's the most important thing about heroes being released now, whereas obviously this whole counterpicking thing is coming up. But Mauga, I don't think he's going to get counterpicked that often because you're just probably not going to see him at least at a high level. So I think it's a big success with the hero in design, and like the character as well is very cool. Like he's a pretty sick character. They did the Overwatch Play Overwatch Twitter takeover with Mauga. That was pretty sweet. Like all these small little things. So the personality of the hero is cool. So yeah, I think overall it's good. Is he a good hero? Probably not. But yeah, I think it's fine. And the esports side of things, are people going to be picking him? No. There's just no way. That hero doesn't really offer as much as like, Winston does or like a Sigma does kind of thing. So, but that's fine.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting perspective. It's exactly why, I like bringing on different brands of people, because I think that the current perception that I've seen amongst people in my community or people who come into my stream is like, Mauga fucking OP, man. Like, he just does so much damage. He's like, So like, I think especially because they buffed him a lot before, you know, they made him public. They've given him extensive buffs in the patch notes. This is what I want to lead Freedo to, is that they've obviously said always they want the safe side of strong, right? And I assume that's what these buffs are intended to bring Mauga to, is they want him to be the safe side of strong, so that when he launches, everyone's like, yeah, I want to play this hero. And then presumably later, I don't know if that'll be before he comes into comp, or if they feel like actually this is fine, they might tone him back. But how do you find him to be, especially with the eye to the majority of players? Joel is kind of saying, and I take his word for it, that probably in super high elo we're not gonna, or at least pro play, we're not gonna see him. Do you think he's gonna at all fit into people's normal games?
Yeah, for sure. There's quite a few ranked pub stomper tank picks, and it's good for the game because as they keep adding heroes with these unique mechanics that do unique things, not everybody learns how to play against them. And as the hero roster grows, just having a pocket pick of X, Y, or Z hero will get more value just because not everyone's going to remember exactly how you're supposed to deal with it. So to expand on a lot of the good points that were made already, but for sure, I think there's things that people playing as Mauga don't really understand. There's things that countering him, I think they don't understand. So for sure, the low cooldown on the shift. I don't think people really realize what the benefit of having an unstoppable movement cooldown like that means. It means you can play positions that no other tank could really get to, because if you try to dart across the formation as Ryan or something, you would just get destroyed. You would never do that, right? But Mauga can do that and get to a new spot. So he's sort of like a leapfrogging Roadhog in a way, where Hog has the big damage that you know what to expect, but he kind of needs the camp, right? Mauga can go from A to B to A to B. And then what I think a lot of players don't realize, if you're struggling to counter him, is like, because he's unstoppable, you cannot use that on a cooldown until after the ability is used. And you might have already gotten knocked into the ground, or like knocked into the dirt. So you can literally run at an Ana and be kind of okay in some cases. So there's like these really knife edge interactions where he can outplay you in the way that we might imagine a tank can. Now, he also gets outplayed, and as you learn, you need to use that really quick. I think it's 5 seconds, right, on the shift, if I'm not mistaken, 5 or 6, which for a movement cooldown on a tank is really low. Does anybody remember what it is? Am I right on that? I feel like that's what
It's
it was in my
6.
memory. It's 6, right?
Yeah,
Winston's Leap
yeah.
is 5, for example. Like, these are ones that are good for staging. And we mentioned Yiddle earlier too. A guy like that is good to look to in moments like these because he wrote the book on Wrecking Ball, for example, which is a character everyone was like, what do we do with him? I don't know. He's weird. He kind of goes in and out. And oddly enough, like Mauga, we're going to think about him for his tank destruction abilities. But I think the thing that's unique about him is like he can kind of get in and out of the fight similar to the way Ball might in terms of staging, then collapsing and going back in. So, and then he has the best ult in the game. From the tank category anyway. Like, it's really hard to toss more ults in at the Mauga who uses a good cage fight and win, because you have a shield automatically that zones out a lot of things, but then he gets infinite ammo, and then if he has his lifesteal cooldown, he doesn't get antied. Like, there's so many ways that ult like just lasts forever. It kind of reminds me of when Ramatra came out, and it was like, wow, an infinite ult is kind of good if you don't outplay it properly. Like, it's I don't know if what the duration on cage fight is, but it just feels like it lasts forever. And there's a lot of support ults specifically that don't outlast it. And it's pretty rare that a tank ult is like beating support utility nowadays. And so to have one that can pretty reliably, I think is quite good. But that all being said, one other major counter is like, if you just manage your defenses on any defensive tank, maybe like D.Va, and eat when he has cardiac overdrive, he's like not a character all of a sudden. Like, they improved his poke, they improved this, they improved that, but he has no sustain if you damage mitigate in any way, really, when he has cardiac overdrive. Then he'll just fall over and probably tilt swap because the character becomes very boring. Perhaps a bad thing, though, for the counterpick-a-thon game is like there's a lot of tanks where he's hilariously easy into. Where like, a Winston Primal, it's like, does not look that good. Like in isolation, right? Like in team play or whatever, Winston might still outplay it, but like from a solo queue perspective, it's like you're just gonna it's like a brick wall of a character that will kind of roll you. So anyway, I think it's fun. I saw a lot of negative criticism online, actually. A lot of players tired of these like shooty tanks, maybe wanting more of a old school play style. Obviously, like there's things like Orisa was praised for her rework originally, and then we're like, Orisa mirrors are terrible, and if we're already starting to get tired of Mauga mirrors, like that's certainly not a thing we want. But I think for the things I said earlier, luckily he's like he'd be too easy to counter. Like one thing you have to worry about with Overwatch Heroes, right, is that if the counter is too easily, my mic is chasing me. Hold on. If sorry, I was attacking. Anybody see that? If the counter is like too easily marked by other things, like if what I just said about like Sig or Diva or something, if that's too easily countered, then Mauga somehow wins. Like if a support ability somehow does that, but I don't think that's going to happen. So for me, I think he'll always be relegated to pocket pick, like rank
Right.
pub stomper status, which is totally fine. Hard agree with everyone who also said that. So that's my spiel
Yeah.
on Mauga. Cool guy as well. Cool character. I don't know, kind of a crazy dude. SV, I saw your video about Kiriko. Oh my goodness. This broke my soul because I hadn't thought that deeply about it. And as someone with an English degree, I probably should have noticed these things. But like Mauga actually has a character, so that's good. That's a good start for the design. Anyway.
No, yeah, I mean, Freedo's referring to a video I made on my second channel called "Kiriko's a Boring Character," and it just kind of goes into like, how it started off on a Reddit thread where someone was like, "Kiriko's voice actor is just the worst," and I was like, actually, it's not the voice actor. If you just pay attention to all her voice interactions, they're just awful and lack any sort of like meaningful personality. So I kind of did like a deep dive on like. I kind of did a deep dive into like all her voice lines and then compared them to the cinematic where like in the cinematic she has like a personality and it's like Disney princess. And then all of a sudden you get into the game and she's just like this very bland, dry character whose like only real appeal is like vague snarkiness. So I was kind of like going into this, but I completely agree with Freedo where Mauga actually has like, and I prefer when Overwatch do this where they make characters who kind of, it's okay to have a simplified character, I think. I think one of the banes of modern character design is people want to make every character like the main hero in a way, like the main protagonist, where they're like, oh, they're cool, but they're also like this, but they're also like that, and they also like this. Like they like Liechtenstein art, but they also like street fights. They're really depth and complex, right? It's like, and they did that a little bit with Mauga, where they're like, you think he's dumb, but he's actually really smart. But I still think he's kind of like bombastic enough to just be understandable as a character and not so complex. It's like, well, who is he actually? Like, I get we want human beings to be complex, but like, who is this guy? So I do, like you said, I appreciate that about Mauga, and I think that's where everyone has received him so well, where it's like, you know what? Sometimes we just need a massive dude with bulging pecs and nipple physics. Let's go. Like jiggle physics. Let's go. We need this. Give the people what they want.
True. So true.
You had me till the end. I'm not sure that's what I was asking for specifically, but the rest of it was great.
Well, a lot of the community, you know, they did. Even if you got to put your personal desires aside here, you got the greater good. I just want to go in a little bit more. I mean, we're still learning about Mauga, and we'll have a full Mauga debate at some point when he's in comp and stuff. But just going a little bit more before we move on. Eskay, how do you feel about like aspects of his kit, like the ultimate, for example? We talked about like the shift and the damage, but Freedo says, you know, maybe the best tank ultimate in the game. I think Yeel tweeted that it's better than Ram's ult on release, but he was like, but we're not ready to have that conversation yet. So how do you weigh in?
I think I suck with it then. Because I have not had the same experience. But I also still haven't figured out how to use it optimally. And it's also a lot of the time I'm using it in Mauga mirrors, which is like,
and then they also do it.
there is some nuance to it though, because if you use yours second, you can slightly offset it and then use yours as a shield inside of his ult, and he can't shoot you, which is pretty cool. But I don't know, it seems like it gets broken so quickly. It's very like difficult to know when to use it, and there are a lot of times where I'll try and trap someone and then I'll just die. It's like the I'm not trapped in here with you kind of thing. You're trapped in here with me. Yeah. But it's definitely an insane ult. I think I'm just not using it correctly. I'll need to watch some Udall.
Yeah, I share your experiences, honestly. From whatever I played, I was kind of like, I feel like this could be really good, but I'm just throwing most of the time with it. Like, I'm the one who dies. Also, if there's a life weaver, it's just like, well, this ult is shit now because that guy just gets yoinked the fuck out. I had this, like, the painful... It was like one of those stupid moments where you slap your head repeatedly where you're like, okay, they have a life weaver. I gotta bear in mind, I can't solo ult a guy with the cage. And then I'm like, I had the object permanence of a plat player, and I just like, I do it, and then the
I did
yoik
that
come out, and I'm like,
yesterday.
well, I'm just
Yeah.
fucking stood in here now, and I can't leave the cage. So I look like an idiot now. So there's
There's a
definitely
lot
like,
of cool uses for it.
yes, I agree.
Like just using it as a shield for your team without even trapping anyone sometimes would be really cool. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No,
I wanted to
go
throw it
ahead.
in.
That's absolutely correct. I think also like when we get a bit more of an idea of the geometry elements of it, because what you can do is you can do some
Yeah.
neat things where you can like trap people in like a sort of corner where they're like pinned against this
Yeah,
area,
they can't jump up kind of
right?
thing.
And then you can kind of like all bulldoze them into that one corner, and then you're kind of really winning. But so often as well,
Yeah,
I didn't have the estimation of like the length of it, so I would like think I'm gonna get 3 people, and then I only get like one person or
Yeah.
something.
Does anyone know, is it the same size as your E? Like when you press your E, you have a radius around you. Is the cage the same size of that? I think it is, but I'm not 100% sure. But that's
I'm
what I
not
was
sure
using as a
either.
guide because I kept on missing.
Yeah, I definitely whiffed it a lot. So it'll be interesting to see. I definitely think there's a lot of nuance to it. And I do look forward to seeing what the results come out when, inevitably he drops in the rank and we're going to see 8 streamers do an unranked to GM
Yeah.
on Mauga. And we'll all
Yep.
learn a little
My
bit.
favorite content.
Yes, the everlasting tree.
I just
Unranked,
think
the ultimate.
his ultimate is really interesting, and the way I like look at tank ultimates is like how impactful are they, and how easy is it to get a kill after hitting an ult? So like if you hit a shatter, it's pretty easy to get a kill. They're on the ground unless they get saved by something, Grip, Suzu, or like just you can just heal people through it sometimes if no one's focusing, but the majority of the time you hit a shatter, people are going to shoot the motherfuckers that are on the ground. Grav, it can be easy. Obviously, there's a lot of counterplay to this with Transcendence, beat, etc. But like in isolation, like how easy is it to get a kill like quickly with the Mauga ult? And I don't think it is. I don't think on the surface again, because he's not in ranked, because I've not played against like good Mauga players or anything, it's quite hard to tell. But for me on the surface, like it doesn't seem like a good ult. Like Flux is sick. It does percent damage. It brings everyone up in the air. Everybody who has decent aim can just shoot them before they even reach the ground, so the lamp doesn't even do anything. Transcendence obviously helps that, but you have to contend for that. And, beat again does help. There's a lot of kind of counterplays to that. But like Flux is an unbelievable ult. Mauga's does not seem that way at all. Like Annihilation on release, Infinite, and like I like what Freedo said, like Infinite ults are pretty damn good, but Mauga, I think, just is going to get focused down. And I think the way you end up playing with the ultimate, it would feel like you want to trap a diva or like a Winston or like someone that's like diving into your team, and you just like grab them. Grab someone that has like high mobility, and then you can just burst them down kind of thing, and then just try and focus. Hopefully they don't get saved somehow, But on the surface of it, it doesn't seem crazy impactful. Maybe there are going to be some crazy niche uses, and maybe you do just use it as a shield kind of thing, and you just boom, you pop it out, and then your team can like push up onto a high ground or like do something. Maybe you don't need to trap 5 people. And I think if you do trap 5 people, you're fucking dead. Like you're just gonna fall over. Like I think it's going to be much more of a, if you can get 1 or maybe 2, like that's good, and if you can actually secure the kill, then that's great. But other than that, like an ultimate tier list, it's probably near the bottom. But I mean, we'll see what you can come up with after 100 hours of playing, and what crazy rank players are going to pick him up and actually do well with him. But it feels like Ultimates is supposed to be this big, like, boom, big part of the kit. But I think compared to some of his other abilities, yeah, meh, it's okay. It's very okay. It's definitely on the lower end of the tier list for Ultimates right now, at least.
That's fair. And again, this is where it's always interesting. These are the most exciting parts of a hero release, I think, is when we don't know. I think once we know, it becomes a lot more boring. It's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how they do it. Okay, fine.
I think the opposite, actually. When you know, it becomes a lot more fun, because
that's your
because then you
try
can
hard
come up with
mentality.
counterplay. Yeah, there's counterplay there, and there's new ways to play around things. So when you do know something that's going to happen, then you can play around that, and you can actually react. Your team can react, just like reacting against Flux. Like, okay, he's got Flux. You want to split? Supports. You don't want to stand next to each other and hold hands. I think that's the most fun part about it.
That's fair. That's your Overwatch nerd top 500
Maybe.
ideology.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what does it do? And then like the fun ends for me when we all figure it out. Like, okay, fine, we know what it does. Spilo actually in my chat says Mauga has ridiculous team play potential, easily one of the better ults in the game. Using it for just a shield alone auto wins matchups. Don't even want to use it for big groups unless you're purposely comboing. So again, I'm very excited by the various split opinions on it. So I look forward to seeing where it does land. Any more thoughts on either the ult or just Mauga in general before we move on deeper into the patch notes, Eskay or Freedo?
I thought a way to explain it, a Winston bubble. Would you want 5 people inside your bubble as Winston? Probably not. You want to split them. So in the same way, you place it in the same exact kind of way, where you're splitting the difference on half the team. And the ability stack in this game is like so crucial to, well, do they have anti on you? Like an Ana might duel you in the ult. Yeah, like that can happen for sure. But if you get nano, like then you probably can trap the whole team. I think like the really life stealing with infinite ammo is the trick, I think, because you can fight 5 if you have your E. It's the E, right? Cardiac overdrive with infinite ammo.
Yeah.
Like if you target priority right, it's like the thing is, a lot of these other ults do have counters, but if you land this ult perfectly, there's no ult that beats it. Not one from the support category anyway that I can think of, because you will out heal all of them. It's like they try to talk, because when you split them in that way, the enemy have to decide there's a big shield in the way. How do I interact with these people trapped inside? Do I jump in? Do I like not? It's a hard decision for them to make, and you just keep going forever and ever and ever, life stealing. And yeah, I think that's how you win. It's like, but in the end, after everyone learns that in like a rank context, I don't know what happens. Like, is it going to get to the point where people execute it well enough that you just don't even engage with it? Or I don't know. Like it's tricky. It's like, I think a character like Roadhog, for example, is like a good comparison where people underrate him for a long, long time. And then all of a sudden you start to remember like, wow, Whole Hog actually is like a super free kill. And then you forget about it. Again, I said this earlier, but it's like, it's one of those mechanics that you forget how to outplay it properly and then it rolls you. So yeah, especially for specific Overwatch 2 moments that tend to happen. There's a lot of sustain in the game. Having an ult that you can put on the checkpoint. Oh, another thing I forgot to mention, because I think I'm gonna attempt to speak up for my homeboys Sam and Flats who weren't on today's show. So whenever I have a chance, I'll interject some 6v6 propaganda, but also tank propaganda, because I'm willing to bet I don't think Flats would say that Earthshatter is one of the stronger ults. So just throwing that out there, getting like, especially with the stun nerf. So that's my tank propaganda take, that fluxes are hard to hit, cage fight, reliable engagement every time.
True, I whiff my flux.
We'll need to learn. Again, I could be wrong, but it's like it's too hard to know this early. It's too complicated, basically, of an ability to know how it's gonna fall at the end of the day.
And then there's us, Amen and Aring, and then I get Hawk in my chat who says, this hero is a must pick right now. He can only lose to Sigma on a certain map. So, boom, the opinions.
That's crazy.
Opinions are flying. I love to see it. Thank you guys for coming in and giving your opinions in chat as well. I love to see it. So I'm looking forward to the chaos when he drops in a rank and we all learn with a face full of experience whether he actually is good or not.
I'm ready to be wrong. I'm just saying. I'm ready to be wrong.
You could be right too. You could be right too. You could be like
I trust Hawk more than most, to be fair. If Hawk's saying that, then actually, I'll go away for a minute and think about it. Because, if Hawk is saying something like that shit, then, maybe he's OP. I don't know.
Eskay, any more thoughts on Mauga before we move on?
Nope.
No. Okay. So let's move on. And we'll go through the patch notes themselves first, and then we can go back and discuss stuff like, I'm just showing my chat on screen here, Winter Wonderland, weapon skins, Battle of the Beasts. I don't think we'll really need to discuss too much of them, but we can go back to them later. Obviously, we'll go back to hero mastery and stuff as well. I don't think we need to discuss endorsement level changes, reticle changes. Actually, maybe a word on the unranked lever penalties, because this has actually been a surprisingly hot topic, at least amongst the average player, I found, the casual player. A lot of people really have been bothered by the unranked lever penalties, and I keep getting people, kind of coming in and complaining about it, so I'll just read what changes they've made currently and what it'll bring it to, and then I'm curious as to your guys' opinion, which is that now what they've said is that they said they're quite happy with how this is going, and in order to further discourage players from repeatedly leaving games, they're going to make it so that in quick play, they're going to make it so that leaving 4 out of 20 of your last games played will result in a 20-minute suspension from being able to queue for most game modes including unranked and competitive, and leaving 6 out of your last 20 games will result in a 4-hour suspension from unranked and competitive. So it is steep stuff. But at the same time, the point being that it's 1 out of 5 of your games and then 1 out of 3 roughly of your games. So that's a lot of your games to be leaving before you reach these penalties. Eskay, what are your thoughts? I mean, is it something that's come up in your discussions?
I didn't know the penalties were that bad. That's pretty crazy. But I didn't really understand why people were complaining about it, because why would you leave quick play?
So
But I totally get it. I totally get it. If you have, like, kids or something like that, is that why they're complaining? Or is it because they want to rage quit games?
I think
Because
it's more the latter. I think the former gets used as the as an
yeah,
argument, but I think from what just to set up the discussion, I think what I've seen a lot of people say is basically, I think the most common thing that's happening is that people get into games and they're like, I don't want to be in this game anymore, right? I don't like my team, I don't like the situation, I don't like that we're losing, I don't like the map, whatever it is, and they just want to leave. And obviously this is disincentivizing them from doing it. And then the counter argument that people are saying is that what it creates is that now I'm throwing in my games rather than leaving the game. I'm going to throw the game because I don't want to be here, but I can't leave. So that's what people are saying it may create.
I see. I think it does create that, but it's their fault. Just play the game. Quit being a little bitch. I don't know. I- Quick play is way too sweaty.
That's pretty fair.
Like
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of quick play lately just because like long streams, you don't want to play ranked for like 12 hours straight. Dude, I get flamed for playing casually. I'm like top 500, you know? What if I'm like gold? Then I'll get flamed even more. People are like 3 and 5 on Hanzo, GG. Or yesterday I had a Ryan leave because Fariha was playing Widow on Lijiang Tower and he was like, swap off Widow. She was like, no. He just left. I think people like that should get punished for leaving games. Like, quit being a baby, damn. It's so annoying. I like the leaver penalties.
I mean, to
It's
be fair,
their
you're
fault.
probably... Go ahead. Finish your thought.
That's all. It's their fault.
I was just gonna say that you probably are being match made even in quick play. So, but as quick play is sweaty. I think in many ways sometimes quick play is sweatier than comp because people lock into comp and they're like,
It's way
I
sweatier.
feel like one tricking Zenyatta today. But then in
Yeah.
quick play, people are like, I gotta get that fucking challenge win today, my guy. I'm gonna fucking counter swap everything that they're doing. So like people actually,
Yeah.
Jaws, you said this is your experience as well. Like quick play is more sweaty
Yeah,
than comp.
like every now and then I play quick play. I've never heard people. Well, I don't join voice in quick play, but I've never seen more people type in quick play than I see it maybe once or twice in ranked, but it's normally someone on the other team knows somebody and they're like poking fun or whatever, or just saying whatever, right? And then in quick play, it's like, holy shit, people are writing motherfucking
Yeah.
novels out here, just like flaming people, like, you know, we should do this. Like, I'm like, bro, like what? Like, I don't know. I play quick play, like I said, every now and then I just go in lock widow, no matter the map, and it's fun because I just get to walk around and kill people, you know, like. But yeah, it's strange. I think that's a good thing that we have leaver penalties because my god, like the amount of times I get backfilled is like I'm like okay with being backfilled because if I lose, it doesn't matter because it's quick play. I don't care that much. But like, my god, it's insane. Like how many people like leave games near the end or like halfway through. I join a game and it's like midtown and they have like 4 minutes on the time bank. I'm like, and I'm on the obviously the other team. I'm like, holy shit. God damn, I'm not surprised half the team got down left because they got stomped that hard. You look and there's like a soldier with 17 limbs and 0 deaths. And I'm like, you should probably play that. You know, I can understand why people leave, but if you're leaving like that much, then you probably should get a 10 ban. A 4-hour ban is quite a long time. That's like the way I think about that is like that's an evening for somebody. But if you've also left that much, then fair enough. Like maybe you should get temp banned for the evening because if you do like work a 9-6 and you come home, you're playing on like PS4 or whatever, and like you just keep leaving games and like, then you get banned. Like that's your evening gone. If you for Overwatch at least, right? You literally have to go play something else because you haven't probably don't have 4 hours to spend just playing games in the evening on a weekday. So maybe 4 hours is a little bit long, but still, if you're leaving games that repeatedly, then yeah, probably. It also causes a nightmare for the matchmaker as well, which probably slows down queue times. So there's probably some back end reason why they're also bringing up these ban rates a little bit here. But yeah, I think it's fine.
Freedo, you kind of raised your eyebrows when Eskay told everyone to fucking stop being a bitch, but do you feel like
Well
it's a
said.
good thing?
I got hit with one actually because when I wait for my friends to get on, I might play quick play, and then leave, and I guess over the course of a couple sessions, I left too many games within the allotted amount, and then I got a small little ban. I was like, "Oh shoot!" And that's changed my behavior anyway, where I just don't leave them anymore. I just let them play out. So, um, they had a bit of a discussion on if they want to make another queue that's like properly quick play, like fun quick play, let's say, and then maybe a unrated competitive rule set, which I would assume probably would be you play both sides, harsher lever penalty. I tend to think splitting queues splits the player base, splits the matchmaking, and I'd prefer not that. I think everyone should just adapt to the new rule set and just don't leave your unrated is actually what it's called in this game, but or unranked or whatever it is. Don't leave. I don't know. Play the game out. I think like also there's a weird psychology with this game and the player base we have, which I wish it would adapt. And perhaps the format will help ease those that aren't interested in this. But this is a game about countering the enemy strategies. It's been incentivized and pushed like so hard. We might have argued in Overwatch 1 that like was a mechanic they dreamed would be good, but wasn't good. It's actually good in this game. Perhaps maybe even too good. So it's like it's always kind of winnable because there's so many heroes in your role that you could swap to like try something else. So I wish more people were interested in that, but maybe that's just a thing I like. And for those that don't want to do that, they are testing new formats. So we will see in the future.
Yeah, it's interesting that we've ended up in this world because obviously for the longest time, for those who maybe aren't OG Overwatch 1 players, for the longest time in Overwatch 1, quick play was just not, it just didn't really work for even being a fun casual mode because it was like this back before roll queue, it was just like 5 DPS locks all the time, right? Like you just couldn't even get a remotely sane comp.
Yeah.
So if you were just like, I want to just chill, because you know, if you're queuing ranked, you're getting a similar thing where you know 3 people lock a DPS, and you're like, shit, I gotta fill, and then you go to quick play, and you're like, maybe now I can try the DPS here I want to play. No, this is 5 DPS lock. So it wasn't even working at a base level for the longest time. Then we got to roll lock, and it sanitized quick play a lot. Quick play became, I remember Freedo and I had these discussions on the podcast stuff. Quick play became better than comp in many ways because you could kind of play a sane comp, and it was fun, but didn't have the sweaty, try-hard elements of comp, and you could kind of experiment and mess around, and people didn't take it so seriously. But then Overwatch 2 came around, and they added the Battle Pass incentives to quick play, and I think that's really the driver that turned it into this sweat fest, where whenever I hop into quick play, because I don't care about these challenges, right? I give zero fucks about my Battle Pass. I couldn't even tell you how many Battle Passes I have or not completed. Beyond just being able to tell you which mythic skins I do and don't have, right? I don't ever keep track of what my battle pass level is. So I'll be like, why are people so sweaty in quick play? And my chat will be like, the challenges, SCB, the challenges, they got to get their wins today. Like they got to get the wins on this thing or that thing. And that's created this dynamic where now quick play is barely the thing it's supposed to be, right? It's like it's gone the other way now where it's so sweaty, you can't even quick play with any desire to have fun in the game. So it is interesting that we're discussing this third queue almost like a, you know, like what will be a quick play plus and then a normal quick play. It's kind of like a beast of their own making, which leads nicely into me talking about the alt chart swapping thing, unless anyone else has anything more to add on the quick play situation.
I think if quick play is sweaty because of those challenges, they should just make it so you only have to play games and you don't have to win. I think the K-pop arcade game mode was the greatest example of that, where you had to score enough points. That game mode was
Oh, I
harder
did
than
not get that
Overwatch
title.
League lobbies. I didn't get that title
Yeah.
either because it was
No, I
impossible.
didn't wanna do it.
Everyone was trying so hard. It was
It was Diva,
ridiculous.
Kiri, Brig every
Yeah,
game,
every
and no
single
one
game.
dies. Like,
And if
oh
you
god,
played
it was
anything else,
awful.
you get flamed because
Yeah,
everyone needs their
because that
points.
wasn't meta in that. Because people figured
Yeah.
out the meta like that, and it was just boring. Like,
Yep.
dude, I got maybe a 3 wins or something. I didn't even get 400. I got like 100 points or some shit like that. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. Like,
I played for
can't,
2
but
hours and won 1
yeah,
game.
it was grueling. It was actually grueling. It's
Yeah.
so silly. I like that idea though, like doing not like. Although to be fair, especially the daily ones is like 1 win. Like if you are sweating hard to get 1 win, like bro, maybe there's something wrong there. But like I kind of understand for the weekly ones because it's like, oh, win X amount of games, or like the event ones where it's like wins count as double, which is like half like participation and then half like winning. But yeah, damn, I don't know, man. It's quick play. I don't think quick play should ever be separated into two queues. I think that does dilute it a little bit because in quick play there's still like an MMR thing where like it will loosely base your MMR because like Eskay is not going to go up against brand new accounts, like fresh out of the like, oh, I downloaded my first game on my new PC and let's try this Overwatch game, and then you're just like pounding them into the dirt, making them quit. Like, so splitting that up even further is gonna it will increase matchmaking times, I would imagine, and it just doesn't feel right to do that because people always complain about matchmaking times, and you can't really have the most casual mode, even if it does feel try hard, have like long queue times.
Yeah,
I like sweaty quick play. I like it.
I mean, some people like that too, right?
Yeah.
I prefer it this way. I'd rather that because I get annoyed when people aren't really trying, or I'm not one of these people who like you know AFKs or emotes just to troll. Like I want to get in there. Let's go. You know, even if you got a Widowmaker on Li Zhang, Reinhardt, you know, you can swap your hero too. You know, swap around, adapt to your team, play the game they're playing, or counter the enemy. It's not hard. Lots of heroes to do it.
And I can tell what you're extrapolating your philosophy there, why you're having so much fun right now in Overwatch, because, you know, it's more, I guess, if you want to call it tactical element of like, there is a theory crafting element. There is a let's construct our comp in the way to beat theirs comp. So it's like, I definitely see how you are enjoying it a lot more. But this leads us to the counter swap discussion and the ultimate charge change. So obviously they've changed now the 25% to 15%. I'll just quickly read the developer comments here because I do want to go off a little bit, so you'll have to forgive me, guys. But to do that, I need to read the thing out loud so I can then actually analyze the statement. So developer comments say, swapping heroes is fundamental to the gameplay of Overwatch, and this ultimate charge refund mechanic has done a great job of decreasing friction there. It has helped matches feel less one-sided as it functions as a soft comeback mechanic. However, it's also helped reinforce the perception that it's most always an advantage to counterswap upon dying, which ideally isn't always true and requires some consideration due to how powerful ultimate abilities can be. We are reducing the amount of ultimate charge preserved by a significant amount in order to see if the increased cost of switching meaningfully impacts player behavior while retaining the benefits this mechanic provides. So the part, I mean, I'll just put it out there that, you know, I'm obviously biased in the sense that I've been against this from the go, right? I've been literally the minute they announced it, Freedo was on the podcast and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like the direction it's going. The part I extremely dislike though, is that opening sentence that swapping heroes is a fundamental to the gameplay of Overwatch. Because if we go back, if we take a trip in time, my friends, to the launch of Overwatch 2, the developers said, guys, we've crunched the statistics, we looked at the numbers, nobody swaps. I'm sorry to inform you, 80%, the majority of players play like 2 to 3 heroes, nobody swaps, and for that reason, we are going to paywall the heroes. Because we think heroes are the most fundamental part of Overwatch, it is the most marketable thing that we can sell, and so we're going to paywall the heroes, because if you wanted the hero, you would get it anyways, and the heroes you don't want, you would ignore. So to come around a year later, when we've kind of accepted the hero paywalling as kind of like, this is Overwatch now. To me, this statement is gaslighting. This is like a case in point of like, we are trying to make you believe that something that happened didn't actually happen. And it's just like, this has always been the way. It's always been the way that counter-swapping has been a thing. Hold up a minute, guys. You said counter-swapping wasn't a thing. And that's why you were establishing certain mechanics of transactions in your own game. And then guess who changed it to make it a thing? You guys added the thing that made it 30% to 25% to now 15%. You added a mechanic that incentivizes hero swapping. And the cynical interpretation would be, and I don't necessarily believe this, but it's certainly an interpretation, is this is done simply to incentivize you to have all the heroes in your roster, i.e. pay for them. Because eventually, the more the counter swapping exists, the more you eventually might run into the problem that you don't have the hero that you need to counter swap into, you lose the matchup now, and you're punished for not owning all the heroes. Where previously, again, if we were to abide by the hero swapping doesn't exist, pick the hero you like to play, that wouldn't exist. So I find it quite irksome that we're kind of trying to pretend that hero swapping is like, it's just a accident of Overwatch as it's always been the way. I know Samito would say this is an inevitable 5v5 mechanic, and Hawk as well, maybe if he's still listening, would say this is actually a consequence of 5v5, and certainly it compounds it. But this idea that the perception, we wanted to do this to reduce friction. Well, by your own standards, the friction didn't exist. Players didn't have a problem with not swapping. You created a solution to a problem that didn't exist. And now you're saying, oh, we just wanted there to reduce friction from the players. And it's created this perception. You guys have made this perception that counter swapping is a problem, that it must always be done. It's like, you guys can't have your cake and eat it too, right? You can't say that it's like something that just happened and players love doing it, but it's like, oh no, it's just perceived advantage. It's not something that actually meaningfully makes an impact when we all know it does. So I am a little bit upset about this, as you can tell. But I also understand that a lot of people embrace and love the world of counter swapping. I just think that this is kind of lying, to be honest. I think it's kind of like you just own it. You made this mechanic and you want this to be the direction. Own it, but then also rectify it with your own claims of why you were paywalling the heroes in the first place. I'm curious if any of your thoughts. Freedo, maybe you want to chime in. Or maybe Jaws. Jaws is taking a deep... Okay.
Jaws first. I think we both have probably a lot to say. You can go first, though.
I like counter swapping. I think it's a core part to the game, and it's fun. I think picking a hero for the right situation is fun. There's a lot of times, I think, in the game, especially when you look outside of like pro play, that you don't even have to counter swap. And it's just like, man, you can just play it. If you're good enough at the hero, you can just play it. You can play a Genji into like, Winston and just everything that kind of counters Genji, right? Like you can play him if you're good enough. And I think that I want to give them the benefit of the doubt in a way and say they're probably right initially that most players don't swap, because I think 80% of the player base is super casual and they jump on a couple hours a night maybe, or maybe a couple of times a week for a few hours, and they play Genji and they play Pharah and they play Junk. I don't know, 3 projectile heroes, and they just really like playing those 3. And it's just like, yeah, this is really fun, just like fucking around with their friend. For like ranked players, there's probably some, I would imagine, some like weird disparity where like ranked players swap a ton more, and the casual player base and like a lot of people that play more casually, they don't, because they just like to jump in and play their own heroes. The whole like perception thing is quite interesting, because their perception does turn into reality eventually. And I think there's like a really good like game design analogy where, like, this is a long time ago in like an FPS game where players were complaining this shotgun was underpowered, when it actually did the same amount of damage as another shotgun. It just had a different model and different sound. And then they like changed how the gun sounded, and they made it a bigger like boom, a bigger shotgun bang, and then the players were reporting, oh, it feels way better, but they didn't change anything, but it's the sound. And like what that kind of relates to is the perception of like counter swapping. Like, I think there's a little bit of truth to that in a way. And like, maybe we do perceive counter swapping happening way more, but that's probably because we're noticing it more, because we're paying attention to it. So for me, I don't necessarily think there's a problem with counter swapping. And like, I think it's just a core element to the game that allows you, like League of Legends, you can't do that. Apex, you can't do that. You can't swap like mid-round. Valorant, Rainbow Six, like you can't swap mid-round. When you switch sides, obviously, in certain games you do. But I think at the end of the day, you are launching into a game, and sometimes you are, expected to like counter swap. Maybe you don't have the heroes, but I also think that's a main money driver for the company and for the game, and for like big Blizzard, like above Team 4, that is kind of incentivizing. Like, hey, we do need to make money from this game, and heroes is probably the best way to do that. And I think it's just an unfortunate reality that maybe counter swapping is becoming a problem, or a perceived problem. But I personally just don't think it is. Maybe that's because I'm in a privileged position where I do get the battle pass, and I do buy the battle pass, and I get the hero straight away. But then I only play support, really. So, I haven't had a support in a little while. So like, it doesn't bother me really. And they're quite easy to unlock as soon as the battle pass is finished. I do think it's a core fundamental part of the game, and I really enjoy doing it. But then maybe I'm in the minority as well, because I know a lot of players that only like to play, Mercy one tricks, or like you're a Lucio one trick, and they will always play like Frogger. Like, dude's a Lucio beast, one of the best Lucios to ever do it. Like a ranked Lucio going crazy in the back line, just sniping out supports and stuff. You're not going to counter swap, even if Lucio's not very good. he's still going to make it work, and he's still going to be at the top level because he is so good at Lucio. So yeah, I personally don't think it's too much of an issue. Maybe it is overblown. Yeah, I mean, although overblown to specific roles, I will say tank players complain about it the most because sometimes it does feel like you're in a ever losing battle of like, oh, I've got to switch. But then I would much prefer people be switching than people be fucking mirroring 24/7, double shield back from Overwatch 1, like shooting shields, and Orisa mirrors were so fucking boring. Like, I'd much rather people be swapping up than playing mirror just permanent. Like, that is not a Overwatch I want to live in, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a fair take. I won't respond to that right now because I want to let the others talk. So, Freedo, you said you had something you wanted to say?
Yeah, so I don't want to lose sight of the spite that started the entire conversation. I just don't have as much myself. So we've kind of lost touch with how angry we are supposed to be, perhaps, about them switching it up. I think I've put to bed those emotions. I feel I've shouted them out on this show. The marketing lies at the launch of the game were numerous, in fact, that being one of them. But I'll just come back to like how my game experience of it. 15% might as well be 0, in my opinion. I don't know why you didn't just go the full 0. It's so low that like, is it really smoothing it over? So whatever, fine. I like it because less ults, essentially. Like there was a lot of ults, I think, in the last couple seasons with that higher number because you pretty easily could transition the swap plus the ult, and draining an ult on a counter swap matters a lot. You know, it's made the game play better in general because ults are just so powerful in this game due to the limited defenses that exist. So that I think has been a major boon. The reason why I like swapping so much is because I see the ripple effects of the whole team comp. And so whatever role I'm playing, I know that there's some interaction I can go at and help the team significantly just by being on the right pick. I think it's super boring when it's like, I'm going to pick Bastion for Winston, which maybe is less severe now, thankfully, to that new buff he got. But that's lame. But if there's like, well, their best win condition is Flux. So for BAP, I'm going to save my lamp to set it up on a thing. All right. Tell my tank to play here on a corner. Boom, save him. That feels good to me. I like stuff like that because I feel like the enemy now has to think, how are they going to switch it up and counter what we're doing? And the game has just so much of those interactions. In fact, almost like too many. I feel like almost no one understands this game at this point. Like it's actually too complicated. There's too many heroes that are actually pretty good that people don't get. It's like even when a new hero comes out, none of us can agree on, is he good? Is he bad? Is he the best? Like we have no idea. Like even people who are experts at this game are struggling to like really understand what's going on. And so a lot of times things just evolve into, what do we understand now? Like what can we wrap our head around and play actually? Like what's reliable enough? And I almost look forward to the format changing, which I'll just keep alluding to over and over again, because it sort of like forces you to actually think outside the box. And one major aspect I like about 5v5 is like, no matter what, you are going to get teammates that aren't going to swap. So having a lot of heroes in any of the 3 roles that can swap and have a meaningful interaction, like I was talking about earlier, I really, really like that. So paywall, though, is certainly something that I softened on after when I immediately heard it. Paywall on new heroes, I exploded. This was a private experience because they tested this out a little bit to know what people thought, and I did not take it well, at first, but I softened on this because I'll give you an example. It's like hero like Sojourn, okay? I think Sojourn is a quintessential DPS for you to learn as a ranked player because she solves a lot of things. She can run in front and you can headshot your way to victory. That being said, I don't think I've hit a single rail headshot in my career. I've tried to learn this character. I'm the biggest body shot bandit in the world. I cannot play that character. So there is nothing you can do to like get me as a player to all of a sudden get these mechanics to work. You can play other DPS, but not her. And I think a lot of players have that as well, where even if the meta answer is X, Y, and Z, they keep adding new characters. It doesn't mean you're going to be good. It's like you could be the best Roadhog ever. It doesn't mean you're going to be good at Mauga. Not necessarily. Maybe kind of similar, but it's like if you don't really understand the movement of it, you're playing. You're good at a non-movement hero, and then now it's a movement hero. It's like it's just different, right? So it doesn't offend me because there's enough options where hopefully as they keep adding heroes, maybe there's a different hero that can do that. So maybe like I'll say a trigger word for everyone. Sorry, everyone, cover your ears. Bastion. If I can't play Sojourn, at least I can play Bastion, right? Everyone can play Bastion. It's kind of similar. Okay, like you stand in front, you'll shoot everybody, but do more damage, aim less. Why not? Thankfully, he got tuned back, and he's not ruining every game. But just as like an example, as a for instance. So
Right.
more heroes kind of solves this problem because ideally every player will have something they feel they can contribute on, even if it's not the most ideal for the meta. But no one's playing the meta anyway, really, until you get to really high ranks.
Right. I think one thing I'm very curious to hear Eskay's thoughts. And she's been cooking, I imagine, or maybe not. Maybe she's like, I got nothing to say. But
I'm cooking.
You're cooking. I love it. The one thing I'll quickly add is that the new player experience. I think this is something I should have mentioned in the quick play section too. But actually, just a little quick anecdote is that I recently spent a week learning League of Legends for the first time and never played it. Made a video on it. Go check it out.
That sounds like a rough experience.
It was a rough experience. Go check it out,
my
podcast
God.
viewers. Do me a favor. Go check it out on the main SCV channel. But one of the most frustrating things about it, obviously there's the paywalling is like 10 times worse in League of Legends. We'll give Overwatch credit there. It's like you get like 10 heroes and there's like 100. So you get like a very small fraction of the heroes. But of course there's no swapping.
Almost 200 heroes.
Right, whatever it is, right? There's an obscene number, and you never see 1% of them, right? You're just kind of like you get like this little starter pack that's shit. But at least to the flip side is you don't have to counter swap.
There you go.
Nice, thank you. The flip side is you don't have to counter swap, so you can just kind of like one trick or two trick or whatever, and then you can kind of be fine. One of the big problems though was that there's the new player experience, which is that you have such a small fraction of the heroes that you just don't have access to what everyone else has access to, right? And I think with Overwatch that'll be even more of a problem going forwards. Like, obviously, on alt accounts, I don't have these heroes unlocked, and it can be really problematic when you lock in and you're like, oh, I don't have Life Hero, I don't have Illari, I don't have Kiriko, I don't have this, that. You can obviously that's my alt account, so I don't expect sympathy for that. But for someone who maybe hasn't played for a few months, that's a genuine problem to not have X hero that may actually be necessary in this situation. But also, the surrender option exists in League of Legends, which is to go back to the quick play penalty thing. In League of Legends, you can just surrender, and it's a horrific experience for someone trying to learn the game, because what ends up happening, what basically happened to me is that I either was in a game where my team was losing and they're all spamming the surrender button, and I'm the one guy going, no, I actually want to play this game. I know we're at a slight disadvantage, fellas, but I actually want to play this game out. Versus if I start popping off and we're winning, 5 minutes into the game, they surrender. You see their main, it zooms into their main, it blows up, and it's like victory, and I'm like, I got like a killing spree and they just surrendered. So the problem with like the whole I'm not enjoying this match because I'm losing and I'm gonna leave/surrender is that it ruins the whole integrity of the whole ecosystem, because the only experience you'll ever have is being like in a game where you're just losing and you want to play it out, or you win and you get to win for like 2 minutes and then it's over because everyone leaves or whatever. So I do think it is important if you're gonna play a multiplayer game to sit through all of it and lose sometimes. Because if for every win that you get, someone else has to lose. So that is like the core nature of it. But yeah, all of it goes back to to bring it back to the counter swapping. I just think it speaks to the new player experience. And I do think we need to be cognizant as well. Because obviously we're people who have everything in the game and have everything we'll ever need in the game. But these things are going to become increasing problems the longer the game's life goes on. And they themselves have aimed for a long-term thing. So that's just another thing that I'll throw in there. And now Eskay, cook for me.
Okay. Oh boy, there's so much to catch up on. I think for me, the monetization with like heroes, you have to get to tier 45 on the battle pass or pay $10 to get them instantly. It hasn't hit as bad for me because I'm just so used to getting like destroyed by monetization in other games. Like I played Valorant. It's different there. In Valorant, you pay $10 to unlock it instantly, but you don't even get the battle pass. Or you can play for like 50 hours and get one new agent. Or League of Legends, where I don't even know how it works. It's even worse than Valorant. Or Paladins, which is even worse than Overwatch. Like Overwatch was the only hero-based game that actually did give you them all for free right when you started. So when it came out, that was like,
Dota 2 as well. I will point
oh,
out gives
Dota
you
2 does that?
all
Oh,
the
really?
heroes for
Yeah,
free.
you
I
get
didn't
all
know
the
that. That's
heroes,
really
yeah.
nice. I guess yeah, I'm just so like used to it. I don't know. Like greedy company, blah blah blah. Like shit sucks, but I've kind of like given up on it. Like, what can I actually do? Like, no matter what I do, they're gonna be super greedy. I can sit here and complain all day, and you know what? Maybe I will because I hate it. But like, I don't think I can make change on that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm just like defeated in that sort of way. It's like it's bad, but whatever. I guess we deal with it. Um, what else? Counter swapping. Oh my gosh, that was so long ago. Okay. I completely agree with Jaws, except for one thing, which is tanks. I think DPS, you can absolutely just lock one hero, hit rank 1, like whatever. You never need to swap if you're good. Same with supports. Unless you get unlucky, you're in like an Overwatch League lobby and you only play Moira or something, and it's like a bad Zen meta, and then it's just unlucky. But tanks are different. And this is where I get into like this whole like 6v6 versus 5v5 thing. Hold on. That's the whole thing. Hang on, we're gonna get there.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm
I
excited.
think counter swapping is so powerful that only for tanks. Sorry. Counter swapping is so powerful only for tanks that they've actually balanced around it. In my opinion, Roadhog is completely busted. Mauga is completely busted. But what makes them playable, like what makes it playable into them is that counter swapping is so strong. If you don't have a Zenyatta or an Ana and you're playing against a good Roadhog, you cannot win. That hero is just broken, like beyond belief, completely overpowered. And I think Blizzard has had to balance the last two tank heroes, Roadhog and Mauga, around them being completely unplayable into counter picks. And like they've had to make them so powerful that you can even play them into counter picks, that if the other team doesn't counterpick you, then you kind of just steamroll them easily. But like I think it's had such a strong effect on tanks and like the balance of them. It just overarching scary stuff. Like this wouldn't be a problem in 6v6. The problem is just that there's only one tank. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
So I
I
have more.
want to let you keep going if you have any more strands.
I think that's it. I think
I
there's
I
like
will add
yeah.
on just as like a point about 5v5 versus 6v6. I don't want to go into like a massive discussion about this at all, but I
Yeah.
do agree with you actually on the it wouldn't be too much of an issue, but then you also it's the way I think like you limit the hero design of the tank class so much if it's a 6v6. We would never have
Yeah.
Ram if it was 6v6. There's no way. Because imagine
You're right,
Ram.
you're right.
With like Ram with just any other hero would be just like Ram with fucking Rhine or something stupid like with Lucio. Like how would you survive? It's just a melee comp. Like you just can't win. Like you know, as I do think from my perspective, 5v5 is better for the game, like for a long term, from a health perspective, just because of the creativity you can have with the tank role. However, the caveat to that is because there's only one tank, they have to be so measured and they have to be like finely balanced because they are big DPS. But if they're not big
Yeah, you're right.
DPS, they are big health blobs. And it's just like, wait, how do we find like a balance? And like Doomfist, I think, is a weird one too, in the way that he can one-shot people still kind of. If you go to Doomfist, you can still one-shot people. Like, but you have to be really good, you know, Quake Dawn, etc. And name any Zebra, any Doomfist player. And like Hog is the same way, where it's just like, well, now he can one-shot again because he has the pig pen. He can, you know, the damage, the ammo change, and like how he shoots now, he can still one-shot. Like it's so like a lot of those tanks walk such a fine line of being like unbelievably broken, but unbelievably shit if they're pushed the other way. And it's just a symptom. And I think the prevailing, like, we're just going to have 5v5 and therefore better hero design overall, I think that trumps some of these heroes are just going to be bad. And yeah, I just wanted to add that on the end because I think it's I think it's an important thing to kind of talk about too, and like how it frees up a lot of like hero design and creativity to the role.
No, I
Eskay,
agree.
go
I
ahead.
didn't think of that. I didn't mean to actually argue for 6v6 because I'm a 5v5 person as well. Something that I was talking to Matt Mr. X about it. It's like Overwatch esports became so much more popular after the
Yes.
5v5 change because everyone's college setups were set up 5v5 for like Valorant, CS:GO, League
Valorant,
of
literally
Legends,
everything else.
and
Yeah.
then there was
And
no 6
oh,
setup, so Overwatch couldn't be there. And
yes, and I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to bore my head with a drill when I see double shield again. Like
I
it
know,
opened up
no.
so like casting those double shield games is got to be some of the most boring things you could do. It's just like while they're pulling, oh they're dragging, oh they're pulling, oh they're rocking, they're pulling, they're rocking, oh they gained 2 centimeters of space, they're pulling, they're rocking,
Yeah,
and the May Sim Sig Orisa. I'm sure you've seen the screenshots
Oh,
of like
right. Well,
Li
I
Shang.
don't.
The famous one is Li Shangtao. You know.
Right.
Oh, sorry, SUV. I know you don't want to get onto this, but
Yeah,
that
yeah.
okay. That was my final point.
Yeah.
That was my
I don't
final
want to
point.
go dive in too deep to it because I know
No.
somewhere if
You're
Hulk
chilling.
is still
You're
listening,
chilling.
he's molding now. He's good because he's got like 10 things
He's
he
gonna
wants to
strangle
say.
me.
Where he's gonna be like,
No.
well,
Might
but
be,
this
might be.
they could have done this, they could have done that. So I mean, I think that's a really interesting point that you brought up, SK, about how like literally the 5-player setup was actually an underrated element of like Overwatch esports. So I think that's a cool thing to bring up, but I think that's neither here nor there. I think in terms of the discussion here, because we have this world, and we can hypothesize about what it could have been like in 6v6, but that's not going to get us
yeah,
anywhere. We're here
it's
now,
never gonna happen.
no, we're here
My
now, and we
bad.
can kind of discuss this
Yeah.
iteration as it is. I
Discuss
want to
the stuff
quickly,
that's at hand.
yeah, no, I just want to quickly, no, I think it's a good discussion. I just think that like, I also from my personal point of view, I want to separate my criticism into two different strands here, because I think obviously there's a lot of interconnected issues and grievances that we may or may not have that get intertwined here. My one grievance is on the messaging versus the outcome. So the outcome again is kind of irrelevant how I feel in terms of like I will accept it, but my personal preference is a world where counter swapping is not happening all the time. To be honest, again, I'm my vision would be more like a MOBA. I would be fine with no swapping or something like that, right? So that's just a personal thing, but I accept that other people will want counter swapping and that they may decide to go with a vision that requires counter swapping, and that's fine. That's like you make these decisions as the game developer. There's never a decision that's unanimously popular. Someone always will dislike, and we'll get into this when we talk about the hero ban speculation as well real quick. But there's always going to be someone who's upset and someone who's happy, in the same way that someone was upset and someone was unhappy with Roadlock, and same way with 6v6 with 5v5, right? There's no putting to bed those discussions. My grievance with the messaging is entirely separate. That's, I think, inalienable to the point where it's like, I think this is a straight up lie, or perhaps again like a gaslight is a more accurate term, and that's, I feel, unethical. So I think I want to call that out, because again, I think too often as content creators we get lumped in as shills because it's like, oh well, Blizzard just gives you money and like opportunities so you guys don't criticize. But I do think it's right to point out that this is unethical messaging to kind of, I guess in real estate terms, this would be a bait and switch, right? It's like you kind of start with one thing and you swap another thing in when the person hasn't realized that this has happened. So I think that should be just brought up. There's nothing, as Eskay said, there's nothing we can actively do about it. Like, this is Activision Blizzard, especially until the end of this year, which is soon now, and then Bobby will be gone. But it can't be helped, but it should be told that it's not right. It's not right what they just did. You can't do that and not expect someone to be like, that's fucked up. So that's where I want to bring that up. But is there any other thoughts on this issue that we want to discuss, or do we want to move it on, Freedo, to their potential? Because they're obviously recognizing this as perhaps having gone too far as well. That's why they're discussing potential solutions like hero ban. So anything else you guys want to bring up? Eskay, Jaws in particular, you guys want to bring anything up?
If we're talking about like scummy marketing stuff, I feel like Blizzard has done a lot of that since Overwatch 2 came out. I what was it? I've gotten like scammed twice somehow. I forget how, but like they've like scammed me out of some shop coins or into buying something that I didn't want to buy. I think the first time was it Lifeguard Mercy? No, it was Zombie Mercy. The second time was Zombie Mercy. I paid like $22 for Zombie Mercy plus Charm, but the skin was 15, and it doesn't show that unless you go into the hero gallery and buy it there. And so I paid $7 for a weapon charm that I didn't want, not knowing that I could go to the hero gallery, which is like really obscure and doesn't show up in the shop, and save $7 and just get the skin that I wanted. And I think the first time was the Overwatch 2 Invasion bundle. I was like, oh, everyone was saying, "Oh, you get the battle pass plus you get the invasion for $15." So I was like, "Oh, so if I already have the battle pass, then I'll just get the invasion for $5." But that wasn't how it worked. I ended up buying the battle pass with 1,000 coins that I had, and then I still had to pay $15 for the bundle because it came with 1,000 coins, not with the battle pass. So I was like, yeah, it's like the way the marketing is working and like the way the shop is built is intentionally confusing. And even someone that plays the game full time like I do, I can still get like scammed basically out of my coins, which I find really annoying. You have to be like an expert to save your money or have it be fair.
The shop on that point, the shop just feels old. Like it just feels like a relic of like maybe this was in the game when Overwatch 1 came out, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel like an up-to-date shop. I compare it to like other games that I play, and there's all these different tabs where you can like filter. Like the Zombie Mercy skin's a good example because it could be just like, oh, you go into another tab that's like heroes, and then you click on the character, and then it drops that, and then you click on Mercy, and then it will be
Yeah.
like, boom, there's the zombie skin, and then you don't have to buy the charm, like you said. Like, I don't know if anybody plays the new Battlefield, but Battlefield has this where like you literally just go onto another tab and it's like, oh, here's all the cosmetics for these weapons or like this skin or like whatever. You don't have to buy the bundles if you don't want to. Like, yeah, that I dislike that aspect of it because it's literally like the hero gallery hack where you can save money. Like you just go into the
Yeah.
and like there are also some skins in the hero gallery. I don't know if you guys are aware, you probably are, that you can buy some of the old season 1 skins now. And I
Yeah,
didn't
I
even
just saw
realize.
that.
Yeah, like I really wanted the Cyber Demon Widow, Cyber
I
whatever
just
Widow.
bought that one too.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, I was like, it was a bit of a joke on my stream forever. Like, I'm never gonna get that skin. It's never gonna do in the little rotation in the bottom. But they were
Yeah.
like, oh, you can just go buy it in the hero gallery now. I'm like, why the fuck's that not in the shop? Like, why is it not just listed? Because I think if people realized, they would probably sell a lot more skins. If they were just like, hey, here's the list of Mercy skins, here's the
Yeah.
list of Zen skins and stuff. Yeah, and the bundle is also a very strange like pricing sometimes. I kind of get it, I do, but at least show people where they can buy other things. Like it's very strange. And I will
Oh,
agree with you with the Evasion one too. Like, but that was a weird one because you had to buy it with real money. And I did
yeah.
exactly the same thing, by the way. I did
Yeah.
exactly the same thing. And I was like, oh, wait, so I don't get any. I just like have to pay the $15 now to like get the thing.
Mhm.
Like, oh, okay, that kind of sucks. But I was like, whatever. I don't really care that much about it. I was like, that's fine. I lost one battle pass, I lost 1,000 coins. I'm like, I didn't feel that bad because honestly, I just really wanted to play it. But in hindsight,
Yeah.
obviously, it was like, oh, actually, probably like I could have waited and like not bought that, and then yeah, because it was delayed or whatever, like you couldn't buy it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if they just updated the shop, man, please just
Uh,
make it look more modern.
I'll tell you why it does the rotating thing. They're trying to get it like Valorant, where everyone checks the shop every
Yeah,
single
night
day.
market, but that
Hope
okay, that's executed poorly because there's
no.
no. It's not a night market.
Yeah, no. Okay, so wait, so the way Valorant does it is if there's a skin that you really want, you check the shop every single day because it refreshes every day and brings you 4 skins. You're hoping that you get the skin, which makes you check the shop every single day, which makes you want to buy more things. I think that's the idea behind it, but they're not even doing that correctly.
Yeah,
So like
it's
that
not
pissed me off.
executed the same way. Like
Yeah.
League of Legends, I'm sure you've seen it, SVB, because you've been playing. They well, back in my day, like I started in like season 2, season 3 of League, and like they didn't have all this fancy stuff. It was just a page of heroes, like and a page of champs, page of skins or whatever. And then they added the like at Christmas, they'd add the, oh, here's your Christmas discount skins. And then you click on the thing and they do the little animation. It shows, oh, you get a 60% off of this Ari skin, for example. And I'm like, oh, I'll buy that. But in Overwatch, it's like you just scroll down, it's just there. It just says for
They
you, like add like not the loot box. I don't want to say it, but add like a little animation where like there's a button that says your daily deals. You click it, and then it goes boom, boom, boom. Here's your daily deals, and it's like a discount off of old skins or whatever, or or just reveal the skins like it does in League or like something.
well,
It feels so outdated.
no, you're 100% correct. I'm kind of internally laughing that we're like certainly I am going to simultaneously criticize the scummy cash grab nature of it, but then also criticize their bad job at making it a very scummy cash grab
Right.
thing. Like
It's
they're doing a
funny,
bad
right?
job of it, but still trying to do it because, as you guys said, in most games that I played, you know, I've been getting into Magic the Gathering a little bit. I've been getting into Warcraft
yeah.
Rumble. And they'll all have, like, you go to the shop every day because they'll have a new deal. And sometimes the deals are just free shit, right?
Yep.
So, like, in Warcraft Rumble, every day you can get some free XP. But guess what? To get the free XP, you got to go to the shop and you got to scroll, like, 3 pages, all of which are offers and, like, hey, buy our shit.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you got one little thing, you click it, and it's like, here's some free shit for you. It's like a crumb for you, you fuck. Now shut the fuck up and buy our things. Like, literally, it'll be like 50 bonus XP for a hero that requires like 10,000 XP to level up. And it's like, here's 50 XP, come click it, you fucking rat. And now you're like the dopamine hit. I hope you saw all our sick offers. Hope you accidentally thumb-clicked one of our sick offers so it accidentally leads you to the purchase window and you do it. But they don't even do that. They don't even do that right.
Yeah.
So, like, they're trying to scam us, but they don't even scam us right. Just scam us right, Blizzard. At least scam us right. At least, yeah, don't insult my intelligence. Scam me properly. Don't do it like this.
I would assume, obviously, everybody kind of knows the psychology behind that. And if you don't, there you go. There's a lesson brought to you by SBB, you know? And, like, that's going to happen in games, whether you like it or not. Like, it doesn't matter. But, like, just if you make it more up to date and modern, like it is going to persuade more people to buy stuff. And like, yeah, you can say the skins are overpriced or whatever, but like just doing it in a better way, like at least alleviates the burden of me being like, okay, am I going to get Cyber Demon Widow? Probably not. But like, I'm not checking every day. Funny you bring up Magic the Gathering. Yes, they do exactly the same thing. The daily deals thing, you might get a pack or like you might get some free coins or free gems or like whatever, or you get the card art styles most of the time. But then you're on the thing and it also says, oh, here's all the pack bundles. Here's the like, right now it's like Jurassic World themed because they did a collaboration. It's like, oh, you can buy the card backs and like stuff like that. It's just like, bro, please, like just make it more like navigatable. Like make it make sure that it's like enticing enough for me to actually want to come back. Because in Overwatch, I just kind of gave up. So I'm like, I just don't care anymore. But in the night market on a Valorant, I don't play it too much. I play a little bit, but I always check. I don't spend any money on Valorant, but it's always nice to look. Like same with League. I don't know.
Right,
You know what it is? They need to make us love getting scammed. Like Valorant players love getting scammed. They love losing all their money to
fucking
skins.
funny way to put it.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it is funny, and I think. Sorry, I just want to add this one bit at the end real quick. Is that because Overwatch was free? Oh, not free. Sorry, it was $8 at one point. Like it was $30 or $40 or whatever it was back in 2016. Like, but because the game was out for so long, every hero was free, every map was free, every skin was free, kind of, if you had the coins and you opened enough loot boxes, kind of thing. The general player base is just pissed off with the fact that we're having to pay for battle passes, we're having to get the new heroes, otherwise you have to wait to level 45, etc. It's just this, it's just like a seething, it's like a loathing from like old Overwatch to new, and I think that carries a lot of weight in like the hatred towards these new systems. Whereas you look at other games and you're like, holy shit. And like Eskay said, you said a minute ago, it's like, actually, compare it to other games, it's not that bad. Like it really isn't. Yeah. And like I said, maybe I'm privileged enough to get the battle pass every single season, get the hero, etc. But at the same time, like, holy crap, like buying heroes in League. I cast League for like 4 or 5 years. I didn't have all the heroes. I play champs. I played the game obviously since season 2. Don't have all the champs, and I only played like 4 heroes to be fair, or champs to be fair, in mid lane. Like, but I didn't have them all, and that's just how it was. Obviously, Overwatch suffers from a hero problem where we don't have that many. So, like, you know, like Freedo said earlier, but
and also to, you know, the flip side being again, it's like Overwatch is perhaps unique in the way that you don't need to have all those heroes in League either. Like, you don't actually you can just have like. You just need like 3 or 4.
And you don't need to an Overwatch, really.
Well, that's up for discussion. That's up for discussion. That's definitely depending on your role and what heroes we're talking about.
Definitely.
But let's bring it back now to Overwatch. We had a nice little like segue there about the shop and all these systems. We were discussing counter-swapping, and now we'll probably, because we're going on for quite a while, I will have to rush this segment a little bit. But Freedo, we can discuss it later as well. But any quick mentions you want to make on the discussed ban system, potentially swap system that they're bringing up? So we've already had a huge ban debate, but any just nod to it?
Yeah, let me try to remember and recall the terminology they used. So the timeline actually escapes me, whether this is a season 9 thing or down the line thing. I'm not exactly sure. Um, they are testing changes to the format, specifically looking at trying to limit the number of counter swaps in a game. So one example they gave was perhaps a currency that you have to spend in order to limit, because like I like swapping, but should it be 6 times in a 10-minute game? Maybe that's a little too much, I think, because especially when you start getting into hero swap roulette, where you finally are like, you've swapped so much, you've sort of identified, I will play this hero if you play that hero. And you go A, B, A, C, X, Y, whatever, for a while. And then you get to near the end of the game. Push is like really good for this because, in my opinion, for that to be a playable competitive game mode, you have to swap because otherwise you'll just, if you stay on what you were, you're probably going to lose because you have to make a trade up at some point to make a comeback. Then you're sort of having like a standoff in spawn, like, are you gonna play a counterable thing? Am I? And then like it's almost like you've reset again. And when you start getting that deep into the counter picking, it gets a little ridiculous. And I'm with you to that degree. So much so that I long for like, could we have just like had this in a different way? Playing so many MOBA games, I get a nerd excitement around draft, but they've always stated that Overwatch games are so short that it seems kind of silly to spend. I mean, a Dota draft lasts what, SV, 30 minutes? Like I'm like the game lasts 40 or whatever, right? Like
Well,
but
I
our
think
games last 10
in
minutes
in pro
or
play it
20.
lasts a while, but I think in your normal casual game, like a minute, 2 minutes.
Oh, really? Okay. It's been a while since I've played. So something that sort of tailor fit to the proportions of what our game experience is, remembering that a lot of people don't want to engage with this system at all. They have zero interest whatsoever. They only want to play their hero, right? So it's really only meta nerds like me that start to get excited about any bit of this added in. You would think that perhaps if there was either a swap, either kind of a penalty. They could call it a currency, but it's just limiting what you could do. So it's a penalty, right? It limits how many you're going to be able to get. My question starts to become like, well, do you get to swap back to the hero you were on earlier? Or do you run out and then you're stuck on the thing at the end? Is it a currency for the whole team or is it just for you personally? Like that changes the effectiveness of it, even if it works at all. But it also means if your team has to collaborate on anything, it's like you've got one guy playing hero roulette using up your swaps. Well, you probably don't want that, right? Like, so there's a lot of issues I have with how it could be implemented. In a way, it's sort of a reverse draft, possibly, which would be kind of nice to me, where you maybe are like soft banning out over time. Personally, I feel that in our current 5v5 format in the ranked environment, the game is so open in a way where this is the major benefit I feel 5v5 has to 6v6 is that team comps are limited in how powerful the comp can be. There's always some weakness you could try to exploit if you wanted to. The strongest component of it is the support synergy that kind of holds the whole thing together like glue. But we used to have impenetrable fortresses of team comps that could counter anything technically in Overwatch 1, whereas now that's not the case. So I don't feel the game like badly needs it at all, actually. Like I think just you can keep swapping all you want. Is it annoying to swap lots of times? I think so. And so it's interesting to me because I'm trying to like identify and be very careful with this to make sure that I understand why they're even doing it. Because in Overwatch 1, we would say we need bans because the game isn't balanced well enough to have gameplay diversity due to how strong synergies can be. I don't think that's the case now. It's like very different now. Now it's like, well, a few heroes stand out as overperforming and it gets boring to play against them a lot. I think that's a better argument for it now. I think I saw Necros actually tweet this out. And especially for top players, I'd say bans become more interesting because there's certain picks that are just like BAP, it's like play BAP always, forever, right now with the way like he's balanced. And I like playing BAP, but I can certainly say playing against him as damage is terrible. It's awful. He's got like 4 cooldowns, it feels like, because he can jump, he has a shift, he can duel you on his own, then he has a lamp, and it's like, and then if you don't get all of that out quickly enough, he'll have them again. So that's ridiculous going against and that's just one character. You can say whatever, we will always have one, like Sojourn at her peak or whatever hero you don't like. I think having the it's a bit of ranked agency that perhaps if they do go the ban route, that you can like get stuff that annoys you personally. I'm more excited about these types of formats getting tried in tournaments because I think especially like what's it called? Something, there's a draft type, but like from map to map it gets more interesting in my opinion. To be like, I always said this about like Hearthstone, for example, like in competitive Hearthstone, you would at least when you win on your deck, you'd have to go to your next deck. That's kind of
Right.
what I like to see from teams do. It's like, do you really only have one look? Like if in Overwatch, a big criticism I have over the esport, it's like it's too easy to win the patch lottery or lose it. For example, it's like Atlanta dominated the regular season, and then Sombra's kind of meh. And then Lip's like, "Oh, sorry guys, I know I'm like one of the greatest players of all time, but I'm kind of rusty on some of my other picks." So they just bomb out of the playoffs, and that was hard for me to watch because I'm like, man, that team was so sensational through the whole tournament. Lip's like one of the greatest players ever, and just had a bad day on it seems, or just wasn't. You know what I mean? Like, and he's dominant on some of those picks that he tried to go back to, but it just wasn't working. And then they had a lot of problems, obviously. And I think Hawk spoke about that as well. But uh, that having some issues on the podcast he was on, I think. But so forcing the normal competitive format for pro play, I'm much more interested in because it will like force them to continuously play more things as like the standard format of the game from map to map in a series. Whereas in ranked, we play a best of one. And ranked right now in Overwatch 2 feels like Dota 2 all pick, where it's like you don't know what's coming out, man. It's just like everyone's got their own little pocket pick, and the game play is like chaotic, as opposed to when you draft, everyone's kind of looking at the lineup of heroes. It's like, all right, this comp is good at this, and you can start to like pick and choose, Whereas in Overwatch, it's all available all the time, and you never know if it's like you're going to get super hard. This is partially why I think the stomps are so big, because well, can we counter Pharah? No. Okay. And then you get this counter pick meta game that we keep talking about where a player will like test the waters of something. It's like, hey, can you guys counter a pick I'm good at? It's like, no. Well, you win easily. Or they counter it and then you're like going back into the bag of tricks. Whereas if there's limiting factors to that, it like takes away some of the severity in the ranked context. All right. I feel like I've perhaps spread us a little thin in so many different ways.
Right.
But I mean, you guys heard the podcast before. This is just what I do. So you're used to it by this point, as if we were a fan of the show. So
Right. No, I think there's a lot of strands there and strands that I would love to explore. But I also I'm conscious that we're kind of, I don't want to take too much of you guys' time, so I will just ask just Eskay or Jaws, is there anything you want to saliently bring up or respond to, or should we go deeper into the patch notes?
The one tricks will cry because their one trick, when you get seen in ranked, they will get banned. If there is a Mercy one trick on a team, Mercy is getting banned. If there is a Ball one trick on the enemy team, Ball is getting banned. I think it would devolve into just banning one tricks. I genuinely do. I don't think banning, and it will also slow down the gameplay loop of like going into game, getting out of game, and that kind of stuff too, which I don't particularly enjoy. I think that's what Overwatch does very well, in the way that you can literally just get into a game, you play the game's over, and then you go again. You know what I mean. So like a pick and ban phase, that kind of thing, it will take more time away from like actually playing, and that's not something I'm really a fan of. We did do it in the Overwatch League for a little while. Is that in fact, Bad Pachamari tweeted just today about the time
The
that
cat.
Zoe's cat banned May. And everybody was like, oh my God, this is the greatest cat. Like, please knight this cat right now. Like, this cat deserves the world and more, because May was just dumb stupid at that point and a must pick. Yeah, I'm not too much of a fan of ban personally.
Okay, I haven't given that much thought into it. I haven't sat there for like 2 hours and fleshed out every single part of a good and bad. But I do like that hero bans give us a sense of control over maybe Blizzard making bad balanced decisions. Like if Sojourn is completely busted for 6 months, I'll just auto ban Sojourn every game, and it's like it isn't even there. But I think if hero bans were a thing, you shouldn't be able to see the names of the other team before the match starts.
Yeah, which is very fair. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and
that would be
yeah.
one way of countermeasuring the whole like banning.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to dwell on this too much because these are arguments that obviously Freedo knows that we've had a million times before. Every time the ban
You could
discussion
do a
comes
whole
up.
discussion on this. I think
We
You should
have,
do another
Yeah.
we have,
episode.
and I was
Oh,
going to say
really?
that
Okay, there you go.
if you are curious of to the thing that Jaws brought up, the counter argument to what Jaws brought up, and then the counter argument to that, and all so forth and so on and so forth. You can go back a little bit in the podcast and check out the Great Hero Ban debate. We had a 3-hour fiesta, Freedo, me, Jake, Reinforce, Custa. So we went at it for a long time. All these things were discussed. I think to speak on the whole thing right now, I think the state of Overwatch right now is different to what it was when we were perhaps more keen on hero bans. I don't know if I even feel the hero bans are needed so much anymore as much as the swapping needs to stop a little bit. It's a little bit excessive and a little bit. I think you guys mostly seem fine with it. I'll speak on my dissatisfaction, also the dissatisfaction I've heard from a lot of other players, which is that there's a bit of a devolution to the stupidest, easiest thing that takes place in games where it's like you start, let's say, with an attempt to make a Winston dive work. And when that doesn't work, they're like, well, let's just go bash in Torb, Roadhog, or Orisa, because that's like the default easiest thing I can possibly do. And perhaps you might say it's a balance issue, but like those things actually get a lot of value and they're very frustrating to play against. Or if you're an EU, the default is run fucking Pharah. It's like you lose 2 maps,
hate that.
2 fights, fucking swap to Pharah Mercy, and like now we can't. It kind of like, like the whole argument of like, well, if they run out on X and you can't counter it, you lose. Well, it just kind of kicks that down the can a little bit where it's like, okay, they started with Tracer Genji, but then eventually they lost enough that they went Pharah Mercy, and now you can't counter it, and now you lose 4 minutes into the game instead of losing at the start of the game. So maybe that's better, maybe that's worse. But in many ways, it kind of like
I don't
kicks
like the tokens either. Sorry.
Yes. No, go ahead. No, I'm just saying that like I think they do. I'm glad, I will say, that they're experimenting with this. I think that's a good thing. So kudos to them for actively thinking about what they want to do with the game. I wish they were a bit more active in how they actually designed the game, though. Like I'd rather they take a hold on what they want the game and direct it that way rather than like add a thing and then a month or 2 later be like, shit, we created a problem. How do we solve the problem? And then they try to add a solution to the problem, which will inevitably create a new problem. This is where we got to the counter swapping thing in the first place. Like the 30% was a response to needing to ease the frustration of needing to swap, and then it created 10 more problems, and now we're creating a token system. So I'd rather we just have a direction we go with it, fellas. Like even if it's not a direction I like, just pick one. Okay, but now we do need to move on. So let's talk the patch notes. Let's head over first to Doomfist. Meteor Strike now regenerates 75 health per second while in the air. Ultimate cost increased. So who wants to chime in on this first? By 16%. Ultimate cost increased by 16%. Who wants to chime in on this first?
Very happy. I love it. The net nerf, and I love it because Doom rolls my lobbies. And I also think it's a cute, like, inventive change because you can heal as opposed to run away, and lets you go in. But definitely a nerf in my opinion.
Eskay?
The healing is good. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead,
I have
Joss.
no
You
idea.
think the healing's good?
You go. You go.
The healing's good. I mean, now Doomfist can just come back down at like almost full HP. Well, it depends on how much HP I guess he went up into the sky with. I thought Doom was pretty decent in solo queue, especially if you're a good Doom player. Spoke about it super early on in the podcast, but he's a hero that if you're very good at him and he does walk that fine line, if you're very good at him, you're going to destroy it with him, like absolutely dominate. But if you're not that good, you're probably not going to do well, Like, that's just how it is. That's why Doomfist isn't like perma pick right now. Like, I think it's a good up. I think it's a good buffer, especially regenerating HP, because normally you just use it to get out, jump onto a health pack, but now you can stay in the air for a little bit and then just smash back down on the supports and dominate them. So yeah, playing against Doomfist is quite frustrating, I'd say. But
no, that's fair. I definitely think that there's definitely a lot of frustration playing against Doomfist. I never thought a year or two ago that I'd be the Doomfist player on the podcast, but post Samido coaching, I actually played a lot of Doomfist recently in the last maybe 6 to 12 months. He's a really fun hero. I actually highly recommend it for people like myself who previously were like, I don't really want to get into this whole Doomfist shenanigans. Really lots of fun. I would say one of the most tactical tank heroes, which doesn't feel that way, but he really is all about using your cooldowns in a proper cycle, which I really appreciate. I actually think this is completely irrelevant as a change, other than the like, ult cost is just bad. Like it's just a nerf mostly, and I think the healing doesn't change anything in the sense that yes, you can stay up in the air for a while and get healed, but the problem with that is that every second you're doing that is their cooldowns are coming back. So what ends up happening is you do it, you're like, okay, I want to heal for 150 HP. Suzu's back. So by the time you land, the fucking landing is useless now. Or sleep dart is back, so you land into a sleep dart. So actually, while yes, you may go down in HP as you're using your abilities, and then you want a meteor strike, you kind of want to come back down so you can finish off the people you got low before they get their cooldowns back, or before they get healed or helped by someone else. So it's counter to the window of opportunity that you're looking for with Doomfist, where you're like, okay, I've gotten all these cooldowns out, I've gotten them low. Let me just like slam and finish, and I also get Empowered Punch. So it doesn't change that. I think if you're gonna get healed, if you're gonna go out the fight for 3 seconds to get healed, you may as well have gone onto a health pack, or you may as well have meteor struck back to your supports, because it's like the time is over. The thing I would have actually preferred to see, if I was to buff Doomfist's ult in some way, because obviously it's memed on as like a terrible ult, but I don't even think it's that terrible. I just think that it doesn't have to be this. But here's what I would have liked to seen, is when you meteor strike, leave a lingering contest on the objective for like a second. Because in overtime situations, meteor strike is useless, literally unusable / throw ultimate. Because what ends up happening is, let's say you're like, it's a push or a payload, and you need to or even any objective where you need to contest it at the last second, right? You cannot use your ultimate, because even if you try to go up and down, the objective starts moving by the time you come back down. You C9, you lose. So I would have actually liked to see when I go up, give me a lingering contest on the point for long enough to me to immediately go up and down, so that I can actually use my ultimate in this situation, because otherwise you don't have an ult. In overtime situations, you don't have an ultimate as Doomfist, unless you're like super gonna trust your teammates to touch. But again, why would your Ana be on cart right now? Like, it doesn't make sense. So if I was to have buffed Doomfist, I would have done that, so that I can actually use, let's say it's overtime, I need to use my cooldowns, up, down, I get Empowered Punch again. I haven't thrown the game. I think overall, yeah, it's a net nerf though. But yeah, you guys, not big problem with it. Freedo's happy, I guess, because nobody really likes playing against Doomfist that much.
The reason I don't like Doom is because I feel I know how to outplay him, but my team doesn't. And so this is very frustrating for me, because as just about any character, even a character you'd think Doom's all right against, BAP, I play BAP, and I just feel like it's not so hard for me just to time my jump when he comes. I'm like, oh, hey, bye, and he flows through. But they charge the punch and then he goes in. So the constant uptime of Doom is so oppressive once he gets punched and then gets another punch from the meteor strike. So having some downtime to that it just feels like we can keep him away longer, I am totally happy with. But that's a completely biased point of view. And because again, we talk about tanks. He's got this unique mechanical skill set that is unlike any other tank, and if you don't know how to counter it, you get smacked around, as you know from your empowered Doomfist gameplay.
Honestly, my Doomfist kind of slaps now, and I'm with all the Samido. It actually kind of slaps now until they pick all the counters, and then you don't have fun anymore. Okay, Junker Queen, Scattergun spread reduced 8%. Developer comments, tightening the spread will make it more effective at range against small targets and give her slightly more fight presence. Jaws, how do you feel about this one?
It's all right. I mean, JQ's not crazy right now, so I think it's fine. It's like an overview. I think some of these changes are just non sequitur. They just don't matter.
Yeah, agreed.
Some of these I'm like, what are you targeting here? Obviously the dev comment there says against small targets. It's like, okay, cool. A lot of that just doesn't matter. I mean, we'll get onto some of the other ones that I just don't think matter either. But it just, I found this patch very strange. There are some changes that I'm like, okay, fair enough. But some of them, what? Make no sense. You could have done literally anything else, but you did this? Okay, sure. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but I'm it's just a bit weird. You might as well just not have it in it. But.
Eskay, you concur?
There have been a lot of patches like that recently, where I feel like it's just a change that they threw in just to change something.
Yeah.
It doesn't really make a difference. Yeah. That's how
Freedo?
I felt about most of this balance patch.
Really? Yeah, go ahead. Get louder, Eskay.
Doom change, Junker Queen, the Sigma change. It's all whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Completely agree.
Freedo?
Yeah, I don't disagree with those takes. I just think there's an extra layer here that perhaps is missing because both you guys play at a very high level, and the higher you go, the more solved the game is. But the like ranking through the game or learning the game is like a completely different experience of what heroes are capable of. And I think this patch is them like leaning into players feeling like they can have agency to learn the tank mechanics they want to learn as opposed to the ones they feel they have to learn in order to not lose the counter pickathon game. We'll go through that with the rest of the tanks as well, but like all of them have like some special little thing about them, and they've leaned into power creeping them as opposed to like balancing down the game. So I think this queen buff is nuts. Like, yes, she could be countered, but it's just another one of these picks. Like, this is what the tank roll is. It's like a hard roll or get rolled roll. Too many, both versions of roll in that sentence. Try to keep up. Wasn't intended, but yeah, that's the way it plays. And you know, queen is nasty when not countered. No, but there's a lot of tanks that play that way.
As
Yeah.
a very small caveat before we move on to a different note, the only thing I worry about these small changes is that I think, especially over Overwatch's 2 life cycles, same with Overwatch 1, these small changes seem to get forgotten, and then they, as soon as something gets very buffed, or like, oh, we really want to push Queen into a better place, like we actually want it to be meta, like then they've forgotten about all the other motherfucking small changes that she's had, and it's like, holy shit, she's OP. And like that's my worry with these like small changes that don't really do much of anything, that later down the line it's like this giant snowball. They're like, whoa, okay, we may have messed up here. Like, yeah, that's my only problem with small changes that don't feel like much.
They said something really interesting to that point, where I believe it's in season 9, where and it was with the interview with Flats and Emong. I think it was what they explained. They're looking to tone back either or both burst healing and damage. So I'm curious if we're getting. I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if are they going to massively rebalance the game, almost like they do to Diablo or something, like everything and overhaul on the whole game, because that might be required and like quite wise of them to try to do. It might be difficult, but otherwise, without a doubt, the power creep does add up. I mean, that's just clearly, obviously, what it is. Like, power creep's an interesting thing. It's sort of like inflation or something. It's like oh, we can just print some more money, and then like surely that will like make it work, right? Now we have more Joker Queen damage. It's good, right? We level out the win rates, but the chickens come home to roost eventually on these things.
Yeah, I concur with Jaws on this one in that like I played a little bit of Junk Queen and it was like, oh, this feels nice. It's actually it's noticeable. Like the spread nerf or the buff is actually noticeable. You're like, oh, I got that kill. I didn't think I was gonna get that kill, but I got it. But I think that this is not one of those changes where people are gonna be like, shit, let's run the Jungle Queen now, because there's gonna be like all this Mauga and all this happening. But somewhere down the line, we'll buff Jungle Queen another way, and then people are gonna be like, holy shit, oh my god, she does all of this, all the things now, and then it will be like hard Jungle Queen. Unless some content creator like discovers this or some pro team discovers this and then everyone learns about it, the only usual way it happens is that another patch comes along and then we compound the buffs, because this, as we'll see with some of the other changes, is it's not gonna move the needle. I guess the counter argument doesn't always have to move the needle. Like maybe they're like, we just want to tweak it, and I think that's definitely how they approach it. I think they approach it from a very like, you could call it scientific method, where it's like numbers, like her numbers are like 8% lower than the damage that the other tank is doing, so let's like spread reduce and the numbers will go up and now we're happy. So I think that might be what's going on here. So we obviously Mauga we've discussed. Ramatra, Samido was saying, oh, fucking love Ramatra in open queue, which was a left field suggestion from him. But base health reduced, so he basically got an 100 armor instead of 100 health, and his primary fire got a buff in the size of the projectile, and the damage was increased too. So basically more damage, more survivability. How do we feel about this one? I'll go to Eskay first.
I've seen a lot of people in like my super stacked lobbies playing him, but I don't know anything about like scrim meta, but usually if I see pros locking Ram and ranked, then he's probably like something that they're playing in scrims. I think it made him more relevant which I don't mind. I think he was like one of the worst heroes before this patch. Like no one played him. Him and Ball were the worst tanks, I think. But I also think he's kind of boring. Uh, he doesn't seem like he has much depth. Like I've been watching them play. Whenever I play support, I'm also interested in getting better at tanks, so I'll watch replays and I watch them play, and it's kind of just like shield up, spam. When the fight starts, run past the other Amatra and start punching squishies, and that's like all the depth there is to it. And I think that's kind of lame.
Interesting. I kind of concur that he does create quite boring situations, but I don't know if Jaws feels the same way.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much how that's the gameplay loop right there. Oh, you get
Yeah.
ult, or I get speed, or I get nano or something, and you just run
Yeah,
down,
yeah.
like kill people. I think it's quite cool.
Mhm.
I think I love the design of Ramatra. I think it's sick. But like, yeah, the gameplay loop is a bit. And he was getting kind of rolled by every other tank in the game, and this is a change that actually does make a little bit of sense and actually
Yeah.
does push him more than just like this spread change on JQ. Is like actually gaining armor and survivability like that is good. Especially with Zem being nerfed, especially with Discord Orb recently. He's not as vulnerable to that, and he doesn't have to like perma instantly Nemesis form and then go into block mode and just hold there forever. You know, you can actually play around like Discord and just getting rolled by that a little bit more, which is nice. So yeah, I actually think it's a good change. I played against a Ram yesterday. I didn't really notice the damage, to be honest with you. But you don't. I don't know. Ram's damage is really weird. You do a lot of poke damage with the left click, but like it's so easily shrugged off because you're not hitting. Because like if a target is standing still, you will dominate them. But like because it's a projectile, like you're missing like 50% of those little wasps, you know, or like maybe you're missing like 30% if you're like super good at like, tracking with that shit. So yeah, the damage is, it feels like it's there to break other shields more than like you know, killing people in the back line or like sniping people, you know. So yeah, I think it's fine. Seems good.
Freedo, you've always been a big fan of Ramatra. Are you enjoying this?
I am. My most played tank, I think. I think he struggled a bit because Overwatch in the counter pickathon game is like so matchup reliant. Like you badly need a matchup that you're just gonna go win for the team to feel like you have impact. Whereas Rams just kind of like plays a neutral, brawly, kind of vague play style, and this gives him a little bit more personality. Particularly, I think, especially with the Sigma shield nerf, the slight little shield nerf. I think what they're trying to do there is make Ram seem a bit more viable on poke maps, whereas Sig was like very clearly far and away the best poke tank you could pick on sniper map specifically. So a little bit more damage, and then actually like armor health is important, I'd say, in that form, because prior to that, a sniper headshot would dominate you, and you don't have much shield really. It's like it's maybe decent in comparison now to Sig's shield nerf, but placing on that shield, it's quite limited. It doesn't last so long. So against snipers that are just holding the angle forever, it's like you can't really poke against it. Whereas now you can, because that's a 30% damage reduction from full health that it's really chewing down their damage and kind of letting you contribute poke. I do notice the damage numbers, particularly like there's some small little targets you might be able to finish off easier, particularly if you snare something with the vortex. It's like it's like another kill condition he can have. And especially for the tanks, it's like there's so many tanks that easily kill a thing, and everybody knows like Nemesis form's good at that, but now he has just a little bit more, like he has a small little fringe play that he could make with that staff. Don't forget as well, adds to his ult generation, which that was another nerf that hit him really hard when they changed the ult cost, because that was such a big percentage of his power. So this kind of like is a soft way to add that back as well. I think he's got a underrated matchup against Sig, because he can run at him a little bit like Ryan can, but also contribute to the sniper battle now somewhat. Whereas before he was just kind of a liability, frankly, and as a easy headshot. So yeah, another power creep buff to a character I'll play. I'll take that, please. We'll get to the Winston one too at some point in the patch notes.
Well, yeah, pretty much coming right to it. So there's the Sigma barrier thing. I don't think that much needs to be said about that. I think the regeneration rate going down 15 is like a real shrug moment. I don't think I don't think that's going to change anything. Sigma, I think, mostly is getting played anyways for the power of things that he enables, not necessarily like his own singular bustedness or anything like that. So I don't think this moves the needle. So we can talk about the Tesla cannon armor reduction, or Tesla cannon now ignores armor reduction. And this actually did cause a little bit of heat on social media from what I saw, where people were like, this is fucking stupid, and why are they making Winston like busted or whatever? Like, this is just pointless, and why are they doing this? So let's go to Jaws first. Jaws, how do you feel about this one?
I mean, if you're hitting right clicks on Briggs and stuff like that from what you'd imagine is a very far distance, because Briggs not going to be playing up in your face, at least not on like an initial dive, then good on you. Like, that's great. I think it's more to shred. It's interesting, by the way, they didn't put a dev note for that. I'm curious what their thoughts are about.
I think initially they said no. They did say they did put a dev note. It says this is a special property. Blah blah blah.
No,
it says
mine just doesn't show it
intended to increase Winston's effectiveness against other tanks with large armor health pools. He still won't specialize in dealing damage with tanks since the single target output damage is low, but it will be less of an extreme disadvantage.
Oh, okay, it's not on the patch notes website. That's why I asked.
Oh, sorry, it's in the forums.
Oh, it's in the forum one. Oh, okay. Never go on the forums. So there you go. Yeah, I think overall, I think it's pretty decent. Yeah, just poking down like Rhines and like other tanks, I guess, which is great. And like a lot of good Winstons were like comboing the Tesla cannon with the jump in melee cannon, fucking land on somebody, you know, like that kind of thing to blow someone up. A bit more, a bit easier to execute on someone like a Brig now, which is cool. But yeah, how much of a fire did this really start? I just don't think this is really a change that should have gotten a lot of heat. Like a lot of that poke damage initially from Tesla cannon is going to get healed up like straight away from like an Ana, Brig, Bap, or like literally any healer. Like the Winston, that's not his main primary source of damage. So ignoring armor, I think that's completely fine. Makes the combo potential nicer with the Winston combo, but other than that, I think it's a good change. I think it's fine.
All right, interesting. Eskay?
Yeah, I have no opinions. I hate Brig, so I'm all for this.
Yeah, again, it's interesting because I think most people are like, yeah, this is not really for the tank matchup. This is going to affect the Brig matchup or potentially the Bastion matchup.
It's literally just the Brig matchup, yeah, or the Bastion matchup, yeah.
Right. I mean, maybe it'll help in the Diva
matchup.
It might help in the Diva mirror, or like not mirror, but like, you know, because Diva often just like runs at you, chases you. So maybe now you can poke her down a little bit better and kind of pressure her out. But yeah, it's not really making a play there. I think a lot of people were just saying that like this, it might enable like hard enable a dive meta, and that's kind of like we're trying to force it in a way that's unhealthy. Like rather than trying to like let it happen, we're trying to like force it by power creeping the crap out of things. Freedo, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, counter pickathon. It's like they just added Mauga as well, which I think pretty easily dominates at least primal. Perhaps not and we have Roadhog, and there's so many options to counter Winston, just like for the general player base, that I wasn't up in arms at this change. However, I will say it feels a little silly and wrong, the bullying I've done to Briggs with this change, like, because they just kind of can't play any position really, because you know, in the first 10 seconds of playing the new Winston rework, I'm like, the charge shot ready dive mechanic of like going in, it's like a full charge ult fire is her entire armor pool. And the thing that people got to remember about armor, okay, it's like it's 30% damage resistance while you're in the armor health. So as a tank player, or any player really, having some armor is like massive sustain. So Bastion's the worst for this. And I'm not sure what I think about it exactly, but like in theory, is like poking and then maybe diving Bastion as Winston a play you could make? I think potentially yes. Whereas before it was hard no. Run completely, never be in his line of sight, just hide. Now it's like there's maybe if you commit in, because you're not just the important thing I want to note about it, you're not just helping your damage, you're letting other people now not have the damage reduction when your team's fighting that thing. So particularly those two picks that have armor, it's like you have a tactical you have a Pokemon rock paper scissors counterplay to them, and I'm curious like how the people adapt, because so far in the first few days when I've played against it, it's like people aren't like, they're not even trying to outplay that at all, it feels like. Or they're just used to being able to take advantage of that armor health. Against tanks, at the start of the fight, no one else usually is damaging the tank enough for it to get them out of their armor health. Like, you're not going to sit there and shoot the Rhine for 4 seconds and then now he's out of armor health. That's not really how it works due to how high the healing numbers are. But I do feel the difference on Bastion and Brig for sure, where the healers might struggle to keep them in the armor health. And the difference in sustain of them being a focus fire target is like radically different. It's like I don't know. I'd have to look at the actual time to kill of it, but thinning out 30% of all day. It's like a reverse Discord. Or think of it like that. It's like what was Discord back in the day 30% at some point, or was it always?
Yeah, I think it was at some point.
30?
Jaws
Okay,
will
right.
know.
It's like think of armor like that. Like, that's how strong armor is as a principle, right? It's like a reverse Discord on you. It's like a defensive version of it, just in your base health. So I do not mind it at all. After like Winston being a tough and the easiest to counter pick tank for like a year, it feels like. I'm totally happy to be the one laughing now.
There's the flats propaganda you said you'd spread. So
Oh,
yeah.
I thought it over. I do really like this change. I feel like Winston has always been super weak in ranked. He's like unpickable, especially as soon as they go Brig, you just can't really do anything. Because I feel like Winston is only strong in pro play because of the coordination between the dive, right? And you just don't have that in ranked, like even in super high low. And Winston being able to do something against Brig by himself makes me happy. I like that.
yeah, he can actually kill a Brig on her own now, which I don't think you could really do before. Like before, she just kind of self-healed too much and run away or whip you.
Yeah.
But now you can actually fight her one.
Doesn't affect her ult though. Oddly enough, that's
Right.
funny because now it's over shield health, not armor. Otherwise, you would zap anyway. Wait, maybe you're doing full damage to over. Anyway, maybe I'm out thinking myself.
Yeah. I think you are. May's maximum ammo reduced. Again, I think this is one of those we're gonna shrug and move on kind of thing. Like, yeah, it'll probably reduce the amount of like brainless spamming you can do, but I don't think it. A lot of these changes, my conclusion was like, well, is anyone on the receiving end gonna be less frustrated by this? No, not really. But will the person doing it maybe feel a bit more frustrated? Yeah. So you're kind of pissing everyone off in a way. Like, am I gonna feel any better when the May walls be in like solo blizzards me and I'm the tank? No, I still feel pretty shit about it. I'm not like, oh, at least you had 30 less armor, guys. Yeah, or 30 less ammo, guys. Yeah. But, you know.
Unless you drastically change in ammo capacity in Overwatch, most of the time the ammo changes don't mean much because reloading an Overwatch is very quick.
Right.
Across every hero. In fact, I'm not even sure if there are any differences that from hero to hero. Obviously, when you have like an empty clip as like Ana, it reloads slightly slower, but like you think about reloading an Overwatch, like the amount you do it is a joke. Like, it's crazy. So yeah, it's kind of a
Mauga and Ashe are the only two heroes
Right.
that you reload on.
yeah. I mean, Ashe is unique, right? So that's kind of true because you have to reload one bullet at a time. God, remember when it was like even slower than that? Like, holy shit. Yeah,
I
what
hated
a
that.
horrible experience. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, it's just like, okay, yeah, reloading is so ammo changes, unless they're drastic, don't mean a crazy amount. Especially when they're high numbers, I would say. Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of not doing a lot, the soldier healing station. I've memed on this with my chat a lot because so the cooldown has been increased for the healing station from 15 to 18 seconds. I think in this current dev note, they've just said that, rather than reduce the raw healing output, we're increasing the amount of time between consecutive uses to open up longer periods of vulnerability. I think in the earlier discussion or in the dev blog that they released before, they said, we want to create windows of opportunity with the soldier healing station down, and now I just meme about it all the time, which is that
now they're like, nah.
Anytime I just kill a soldier or a soldier kills me, I'm just like, window opportunity, guys. Let's go. Soldier healing station, 3 seconds extra. Everybody gets hard in on this dive. Let's go. So yeah, I don't know if they really. I don't know where this one came from. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you guys have any strong thoughts on this one, but I have no idea who dug this one up from the.
It nerfs flanking soldier, I guess, by 3 seconds. Again, that's on flanking soldier. That's, if you're like perma on the flank, that's fairly reasonable. But then he does have a really cool ability called legs, which is awesome. That you can just also kind of run to health packs and get away anyway. So it's like, again, it's another strange change. I don't think it's going to harm him too much. Maybe he has to play with his team a little bit more, but overall, I don't think it's a big change.
What's one of those weird changes where if you were sorry, go ahead, Eskay.
Oh, no. It might be a change for lower elos. I don't know if Soldier's super strong in lower elos, but he's definitely not good in top 500.
The time to kill. that
Yeah.
actually might affect them a lot, because the healing might, you might be out healing the damage kind of thing. And to be fair, the
Mhm.
healing rate is fairly high, and dueling a soldier with heal station is like kind of annoying. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
I agree completely, and I think a lot of the patch notes look and smell like that, like it's we're not having a top-down balanced game. I don't think there's any
Well,
evidence of that.
Well, here's the silly part about it though, because it's like, will this change any soldier player's playstyle? And the answer is no. Like, I don't think any
No.
single soldier player is like, I'm gonna
No way.
consciously be like cognizant that this extra 3 seconds on my health pack is gonna do. So it's like one of those, like, it definitely screams to me a lot of these changes of like the stat based balancing of like, they looked at the numbers and they were like, oh well, soldiers self healing for 1,000 or whatever per game, and so we need to cut back on his healing station somehow. How do we do that? Well, we shouldn't reduce the healing raw output number because that would be bad. What about the cooldown, fellas? How about we make the cooldown longer? That'll reduce the number. Frustration solved. So, yeah, it's not going to change the player's behavior. They're just maybe eventually going to be like, oh, I died there. Okay. Like, okay, shrug. Are they going to be like, oh, I was misusing my healing station for that 3 seconds, So, bit of a strange one, but Sombra, this one is an interesting one. So the ability lockout of EMP increased from 1.5 to 3 seconds. The damage reduced from 30% to 25% of the current health. And they basically said that the EMP lockout duration wasn't feeling very impactful, so they wanted to buff it so it does.
I like it. Her
yeah.
EMP sucked. It was so bad before. I still don't think she's that good.
I actually agree, and I think a lot of people think she's better than she is, like because oddly enough, it's like her redesign feels so good to play. I think people are like, I'm having a load of impact, but you're like, you're kind of not. Like
Yeah.
your timing has to be very, very good for this hero to not be tragic. Though she does also get a lot of free easy kills, and I think that like conditions you to think, okay, now I'm good. But then as soon as they start outplaying those easy kills of like, assassinating something with virus, as soon as they just start peeling for each other a little bit, then all of a sudden you're like not a character. So I actually think she's kind of weak in a way. Like you have to execute her very, very well to have a good impact.
Jaws?
Yeah, I mean, completely agree. Yeah, her EMP was just kind of meh, because it's just like, well, it's okay, I'll be fine. No one could focus me down in 1.5 seconds. It'll be all right. Yeah, it's although I've never liked taking the agency away from a player in using their abilities. I think having it only on the EMP is fine. If it was like for manual hack as well, like it used to be, like fuck that. But yeah, I think EMP is cool. It's like a big reward, right? That's what Ultimate should feel like. So it's cool. Reducing the damage as well, that's actually quite nice, I would say. The 5% is going to feel good, especially obviously being a tank player, right? You're going to feel better about that, not losing 30%. The 5% is a lot more for a tank than it is for like a support. So yeah, I think it's cool. Good change.
Yeah, I wonder if this will create that incentive again for like a Lucio or a Zen to like hide in the way that it used to happen, where it's like,
yeah, it probably will.
Oh, it will.
It probably will. Yeah, yeah. Zen's and Lucio's definitely going to hide away now, which is cool. Which is actually something I really liked about playing against
I like
Sombra.
that too.
Yeah, because it's a mind game, and that part of the game I think is very fun.
Yeah, just not playing against a Sombra that doesn't use her EMP for the entire game, so you just wait every single
So
fight
you have beat
behind a
and you
corner.
have trance, and you're like,
Yeah.
bro. Yeah, it's
Makes
cool. I
every
really
fight
like that aspect.
5v4. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
it too.
fair. Yeah, I like the mind game as well. Torbjorn overload over health increased from 75 to 100.
Why?
It's cool. I love Torb, so I'm down with this. I love playing Torb, but I mean, again, it's another like, okay, it's pretty hard to kill anyway, but when he hits overload, but sure, 25 extra HP, baby, let's go. You just wait for it to run out, and then you kill him. So yeah, Torb's
Freedo?
fun as fuck to play though.
Freedo, any thoughts?
I feel so happy that finally another Torb enthusiast is on the show.
Yeah,
I've been
dude,
so
Torb's
lonely
so
for so
fun,
long.
man.
He's kind of BS as well. Yeah, it's like as a support player as well. I'm like, I'm gonna tactically put my turret to protect the player and the laning. Like I'm all on the pro engineer thought process with Torb, a hero that I can kind of aim with. And my turret does half the work for me. So great. Anyway, yeah, the buff specifically. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion.
Fair. I mean, I think it would be hard pressed to find someone who has a very strong opinion on that 25 HP. But yeah, Here's one that might. Tracer's pulse pistol damage from 5.5 to 6, which is another one of these numbers that
Oh,
bounces around a lot in Overwatch 2. Like, soldiers, primary fire is
it
another
bounced
famous
around
one.
because it was a bug. That's
Right.
why. That's why it bounced around so much, because it was bugged forever. And they were like, oh shit, we got to fix that. And then we're going to reduce it. Then we're going to buff it again. This change is huge, by the way. Like, unbelievable. Like, Apply was just beating me into the fucking dirt yesterday with his Tracer. And I'm like, oh, bro. Like, any good Tracer player, like, is going to be rejoicing with this stuff. Like, the 5.5 to 6 is an insane buff for Tracer players. Because she got the range, was it range nerf or buff recently as well? She's actually getting more changes that she's ever gotten in the past, like, however many years, which is quite interesting. But overall, like, incredible change. Tracer's very powerful in ranked as it was, and she's going to be even more powerful now. Yeah.
And Eskay, how do you feel about the Tracer haters? Because I think a lot of people feel like, well, Tracer, like, why must she always be perma meta? Why they always got to buff her when she's already being played a lot in like high elo and top 500 in pro play?
I have like an elitist opinion, and that is that she is very difficult to play, and I think people should be rewarded for it. She's also a hero that has a lot of counterplay, and like you having trouble with the Tracer is like yeah, that sucks, but it's something that can be solved by just getting better instead of other things like, oh, your teammate has to swap, or oh, it's like, I don't know. I just find it fun to play against her, and I like that a really difficult hero is rewarded for being good. So I don't mind her being meta. And she's fun to play.
She's very fun to play. Freedo, how do you feel about this?
I think she's pretty fair in the current power creep version of the game. So many supports that can defend themselves pretty easily against her. So for most players, I think it's like the supports will still feel stronger until you're like at the skill ceiling, and those players know how to not get hit anyway. Like they're just so good that they're kind of in and out, and especially when you start to really master the one clip mechanics, like that's the zenith tier of Tracer gameplay, and she's important to the game. I think remember we had Seagull on the podcast like a while ago, right? And like he talked about how he actually hated Tracer for the duration of Overwatch 1 competitive play because of just how crucial she was, not just like as a damage hero, but so she did damage, but she also plays positions that no other character could. So it was like she's just on a roll on her own, kind of throughout lots of different metas until they removed her from the game for a few. But I think it's at like a somewhat fair space based on like how many options you have to shoot back at her. Basically, like you're not a defenseless support getting farmed by Tracer. It's hard. It definitely is, but when she's really good, but support's been dealing the deeps for quite a while now in Overwatch 2, and you have lots of options to do it as well. So I don't know. I think a fair power creep change. Like this is the power creep patch. It's like power creep was easing in. They're just like, just power creep it more. Why not? Like let's put everything up, all the numbers up. I don't know. As long as a lot of things feel playable, I'm fine with it. This is another one.
Yeah, and it's like actually the thing you mentioned there is not really relevant so much for Tracer anymore anyway. So they should be fine. Which is that she doesn't occupy that role anymore of this like singular unique character that can play this position no one else can. Like now there's actually a bunch of heroes that can just off angling is just so much more of a thing in Overwatch 2, or at least deep off angling. Like previously we're talking about like a diva at a slight, left field here, but now like everybody can be everywhere, right? So I think that need for Tracer is gone anyways. Like now Kiriko does this twice as good because she can like insta teleport out. So yeah, I think this is I think as I share Eskay's sentiment that it's maybe she's the hardest hero in the game, so I'm okay with it. If she was the best hero in the game, I'd be okay with that. Although maybe you could say now tank is very hard too, but I still think Tracer up there. So also very fun. BAP's primary fire ammo reduced from 45 to 36. I'll go to Jaws on this one.
Nerf.
Dude, like, bro, I played him yesterday. I was trying to make a point to play BAP and Kiri. Obviously, we'll go into that in a minute, just to see how it felt. I was like, what changed? Like, if I just loaded in without knowing the patch note, I'd have been like, all right, cool. Like, it doesn't. You reload so often, and doubly more so as BAP because you have the healing grenade, like on the right click. So like the reload on BAP is just so like you're doing it so often anyway, so it doesn't matter. I think what kind of got me about this patch note was actually the dev comment. Like they said, Baptiste has a high amount of sustained damage. True. In addition to his various survivability tools. True. Shift is crazy good. And Lamp, obviously. We would prefer to keep his long cooldowns abilities feeling more impactful. So we're going to be pulling back on some of his damage potential. I'm like, if you show me stats that show BAP doing less damage in ranked, significantly less damage, I will be shocked. Because you're still doing insane damage as BAP, regardless of you having like 9 less ammo, 3 less shots, 3. And like the majority of the damage as well is like you pop window out and then you're one-shotting Tracer. You're like double hitting people in the body. Like it's insane damage output just using Amp Matrix. It's just, again, it's just such a like, if they just didn't put the dev comment, I think I'd be like, okay, cool. Like, but I'm just like, that I just don't think that makes sense in like how you're balancing this. But then you don't want to like increase reload time or anything like that. I think if you want to have him do less damage, I think you just tick the numbers down a little bit there. You don't change the ammo output in with a mechanic that is just so, it just doesn't matter for the majority of heroes in the game, especially BAP, with how often you reload. So yeah, it's a bit of a meme there, I think. A bit of a meme change.
Well, again, this strikes me as another one of those stat-based balances, right? Where it's like, okay, he's doing too much damage. Like we're looking at the stats of average per 10 on every support. BAP's doing too much. We don't want to change his numbers, like his damage or his healing. So how do we bring that number down? Maybe we give him less ammo, and now over the course of a game, maybe he will do like 500, 1,000 less damage, and they're happy with that. Maybe, right? They're like, okay, well, that's less damage. You look, he's not like on the end screen stat board. You don't get to flex the like, look, the BAP did more damage than the DPS. Like maybe now it's a little bit less, and they're happy with that. But I do concur with you. Although I was amused when you said like pop window and one shot a Tracer. I'm like, bro, you one shot a Tracer normal, one shot a fucking Winston.
Yeah, I mean, true,
with
right?
window.
Yeah,
Fucking one shot a Winston. What do you mean? Eskay, how do you feel about this one?
I've always said that BAP is the most broken hero in Overwatch. If you removed any of his abilities, he would still be good. 9 ammo? Man, what? He has 3 health bars. The ammo is not the problem.
he does.
That's,
You remove
my
that
opinion.
100 HP you get from shift again, and then you'd probably bring him down a peg. Because I think that was the biggest change in BAP's history of being a character, was you getting 100 HP for using shift under a certain amount.
It's ridiculous.
Like, holy shit. Like, I do understand, like, and they're right in saying, like, he does have long cooldowns, but, like, that is insane. I've never really thought about it like that either, having 3 health bars. You're not wrong. Like, you're actually straight not wrong. Like, that's a funny way to look at it, because, yeah, Lamp also has a fucking health bar, and then you also have to get a second one when he does his shift, so the regenerative burst. So, yeah, bit of a funny change on this one.
Freedo?
And you can boots away and self-heal. So
Yeah.
I feel like he has 4 ways. He's one of my most played characters, and I feel I was abusing that shift buff before it was popular, before the cool kids got to it, the hipster bat player. I like that, like, it forces me to manage my ammo a little more. Like, as like a change, their reasoning is like kind of funny on it. I agree with Jaws, but I think it's like a smart change due to how easy it is to, like, there's a lot of awkward disciples out there in ranked, it feels like, where I swear, like, every support player is an awkward fan, and they're just trying to frontline DPS the whole time. As someone who, as we've established earlier in the podcast, can't really aim, body shot bandit, it matters to me when I have a little less ammo, because I'm not so efficient. But so I liked how I had to, like, think about my ammo at some point in the game. I think it's like a positive change, but you have 2 sources of impact, heal or shoot. So I think it's like a way to, like, step back the cadence of his gas pedal to all the way down, always uptime BS that he is. He's a pretty BS character, but I think it's also because the rest of the game kind of, like, slowed down around him, and then he's benefited from the game slowing down. Like, there's an entirely different story when we're, like, talking about, like, the Widow and Hog meta back then. Like, he got the change prior to that, and the game's more mid-rangey and brawly now, so he's just like the god king of the universe, especially with Alari dropping in some of her easy power. Like, BAP's, like, pretty competitive against a very stacked role. Let's just be honest. I don't know. I love the guy. He's amazing. But I don't know how they're going to nerf him because like I don't know how they're going to nerf him in a way that's like going to matter for top players because the thing I always try to remind everybody about BAP is like his impact severely goes down as soon as your teammates position poorly. Like the better your teammates position, then he like amplifies their positioning to make it way, way better. But if they suck at positioning, it's like you're kind of just the solo guy and there's like better supports for that. I don't know how they fix that problem. And I think the truth is you don't. And I prefer them not to um, allow stats to hold a playstyle issue that probably exists with the mainstream player base.
That's fair.
If that makes sense. I don't know if that's too obtuse of a point. Was that
No, that's fair. I
coherent?
think that makes sense. Like, you can't necessarily alter the playstyle that way with, like with the like how you're right. How do you make that happen? I think it's an amusing point. I do think awkwards and ranked GMs have kind of I've seen a schism in the type of support player I get in my games. They're either extreme. They're either like, you got to figure out, is this guy never going to heal me because he's like perma in the backline, or is he the AFK support? Like there's only two. There's the perma backline in their backline support, or there's the guy who's like, I'm playing in Narnia. If you push up around this corner, I will never heal you. I'm never leaving this position. So just AFK in front of me here, and that's it. That's all you get. So like you really have to figure it out because they really bounce between one or the other. One requires you to int with them, and the other one requires you to just AFK. So awkward. Think about what you've done. Think about what you've done to the Overwatch community. Brigitte whip shot 80 to 70 damage, which especially in the context of the Tracer changes is interesting. And I suppose the Winston changes, which is perhaps where a lot of the furore came from about forcing a potential dive meta. How do we feel about this one? Because obviously this affects the one-shot potential combo that Brig had on a Tracer. Eskay?
It's good. I like it. That's it.
You did declare you hate Brig earlier, so that might bias
That
your
combo
opinion.
is too strong. Way too strong. It's ridiculous. And she's still good. I'm seeing Briggs in every single one of my ranked games. And I don't play Brig, and I'm losing all of my ranked games. So
Yeah, that's fair. Jaws?
Brig is another Doomfist hog-like character that will be either very good or kind of bad. I don't think she's ever going to find a happy medium. I'm kind of glad that she's getting nerfed a little bit. It's so hard to like buff and nerf that character because of how she is, and she has armor, she has a shield. She's very unlike every other support. So yeah, removing some of those breakpoints where like you're just one tapping people and stuff like that. Yeah, it's a good thing, I think. Maybe we'll see a little less Brig. I'm not entirely sure. I think the healing maybe needs to go down a little bit before we end up seeing that because the healing is insane still. But yeah, overall, I think good change.
I'll supersede Freedo here and say, channeling the inner Samido and representing him. He's going to say, well, look, until we deal with the multiple sources of healing, fellas, nothing will change. It's the pack plus the rally plus the inspire. If you don't change one of those, you're going to always have this problem where, and you do notice it sometimes, you try to fight something that the Brig is helping. It's like, I thought I did 100 damage to that character, but that instantly went back to full. Wow, shit, okay. So I don't know if this will change what they've described in the patch on the developer comments, is that she's by far the best performing support, and that might be why Eskay feels her pain. But Freedo, how do you feel? Do you think this is enough?
I also feel, strangely enough, people don't respect Brig in the way that, like, you gotta punish her, man. Like, the invisible healing, it's like the silent killer, dude. Like, I think a lot of players just, like, let her live in the front, and you gotta trade her out. She can't be allowed to do her little cooldown cycle, and you expect to, like, kill much. I kind of felt this a little bit when, like, Lifeweaver stats were too high. It's like he just, like, chills in the back and will literally heal his way to victory. Now I think he's, like, pretty balanced, Lifeweaver, but Briggs kind of like taking up that role of really being able to slow down the game. And when she has these breakpoints of like, oh, I also have like a bunch of duels I can win too, not just in my defensible, but I can insta kill something. That's kind of nuts on that character. So, yeah, not like a strong opinion because there's also supports that headshot you too. So like it's hard for me to hate Brig like as much as maybe I should based on like the skill to reward output ratio, but stacked roll. Very, very strong roll.
And speaking of, I think what many have described as a net buff is Kiriko's changes, which is The projectile speed of her healing has been increased, and the Suzu, while the invulnerability duration has been reduced from 0.85 to 0.65, the healing explosion has been increased by 40. And the devs are saying basically this will force her to have a more strict timing requirement, and to counterbalance that power loss, we're giving her more healing. Jaws, I'll go to you first on this one. How do we feel about
The
this
offer
one?
to changes are really nice. Like that extra 4 meters per second, you can really feel it. And I think that was the most frustrating part about Kiri, was if you are in the medium range kind of sightlines with your DPS or tank or whoever it is you're trying to heal, the cards like taking eons to get, and you're like, please, the cards, and you're like, sorry, bro, my cards just didn't make it to you, man. And you're like, I just can't. I can't heal any quicker. Like I'm like Wing towards you and shooting my offerer towards you. Like, and so like increasing that is going to make it way less frustrating when you're trying to heal the Tracer, the Farah, whoever basically on your team. I think it's great. It's a really nice change. The Suzu, I think it's good. It's a pretty insane amount of healing now, 40 to 80, doubling the amount of heal. I mean, Suzu, the invulnerability, like it being a cleanse, of course, that was like the main draw to that, was like it cleansing things, cleansing negative effects, and now it giving you 80 HP is kind of nuts.
More healing
Like
on
that
cleanse as
character,
well. Remember?
right? Yeah, like
I can't
that's a
remember what the number
lot of
was.
fucking health.
What's the total then?
Not off the top of my head, no clue. But yeah, when you because you cleanse an ability like anti, you get a bit of extra HP, and then it going from 40 to 80 is kind of ridiculous. 0.2 seconds in this context is quite large because obviously the numbers are so small there. It is quite a large difference, but overall, like this is a net buff for sure. It's going to feel a lot less satisfying playing Kiri with your cards traveling faster, and then the healing is kind of nuts now.
The chat is telling me 110 healing, presumably if you cleanse something.
Oh,
like
it's an
cleanse
AoE.
and you get the explosion. That's a lot of health. I don't know if they needed to touch the healing, because I thought the healing was like, it was fine to begin with. But yeah, that's a lot.
Eskay?
That's a lot. Tree strong. Supports are OP. Make less.
Don't say that, please.
Well, I mean, most of the players here play mostly support, so even if we say that, we'll still get some people being like, fuck you guys. But
Yeah, of course.
Always.
Yeah, I think this is like unintended effects again. I think they maybe thought that, again, this was the Blizzard approach of like, if we have nerfed a thing, we must compensate a thing. But I think they've like underestimating like where this will impact, which is not only, as you guys have pointed out, like, well, if you're all in a clump and you Suzu everyone, it's like 110 for every target that just got HP. Let's say you anti-nated boom.
Gosh.
But also, like the Kiriko flank playstyle will help a lot, because it's like you're just using the Suzu to like give yourself a second's invulnerability anyways, or like, a little quick invulnerability. Now getting an extra 80 HP is like, for a lot of heroes, like maybe another shot they have to hit, another second or so of like damage time that they have to put into trying to kill the Kiriko. So it's like, that's a lot for like, if you're trying, or even if she's not in your backline, let's say you're a Tracer going at her or someone going at her, that extra HP is a lot. So I don't know if they've fully thought through the ramifications of this one, but it also isn't necessarily game breaking either. So Freedo, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, she didn't have enough health bars, so they had to add another.
Right.
She's got to keep up with the other sports. But like, unironically though, this is one of the main reasons why I think this has got to be a bottom 90% player base patch, because like Kiri's win rate is not good, and people talk about her like she's the best support in the game. And I've been saying, like, I mean, she was my best support, but like now it's easily BAP, like in comparison. There's actually very few situations where I feel like I have to be on Kiri, and because
Right.
while cleanse, like in theory, you're like, well, if my tank, yeah, but my tank also can like hide and not feed. Like if they're feeding, yeah, then you gotta like cleanse them so that they actually can go in. But a lot of things don't do that nowadays, and you're better off just like standing and delivering in the back. So Kiri's playstyle got like passed up a bit, I feel, with how like the rest of the support roles gotten powered up. So on one hand, I look at the stats of this and I'm like, wow, that's insane. But on the other hand, like a lot of the supports are just spewing out value everywhere, and Curie wasn't keeping up, in my opinion. At least for me, like I wouldn't want to be on her. Like the whole like uh the game's just far less flanky and divey anyway. So perhaps not the way you should solve that problem. Just a bit of power creep. We're making a patch of gumbo here. I feel it's just sort of like a power creep gumbo. It's like, well, what do we do? A little more flavor of this? Just like add a little more. Why not? Just boost those stats up a bit. Curious if they're gonna mass downscale the game, because from my standpoint, it's like if you're not in the backline sniping something and getting out, it's like you can't play a backline Kiriko now, because other supports are just better as backline support characters, in my opinion. So like Suzu is because a lot of players did play like that, and now that ability's got to like offset Lifeweaver or BAP, who are just better at healing their team, right? And also applying pressure. So I don't know. I'm also a little interested because SV, you've always talked about how you hate the flanking Kiriko playstyle
I do.
as a concept, but I also think that's like the only way to really make her any good in comparison to the other sports that are just like better at playing a more supportive position.
Yeah, especially since they've kind of done away with the heal bot Kiriko, right? It went from we went hard jarring extreme of like at launch it was like heal bot. I mean, once people figured it out, at first people were like, how do we play her? And then people were like, just heal bot and build Kitsune Rush and use Kitsune Rush. And then we hard jarred into like, nah, just perma flank. Again, this is awkward. I'm looking at you. This is the fucking number of times. Like, I don't play Kiriko, man, because just morally, I don't play heroes I hate. But like, sometimes like, my
Very
chat will make me play Kiriko, and then I'll be like, this hero just never dies. But then everyone's like, 4-step plan, SCB, 4-step plan, go in the back, because that's the whole thing that Awkward did in his unranked GM, where it's like, you go in the back line, you flank, you set up, you like shoot, and then you teleport out. Basically, you try to get a kill, and you teleport out, which is like very frustrating. But yeah, I do concur that like it's awkward for her, no pun intended, to like find a position. But I also don't think her bad win rate is indicative of her bad strength. It's just that, as you said, other supports are just better. And it kind of reminds me of when we would discuss like in the past, like a Winston or Reinhardt, where it's like, no, these heroes aren't bad. It's just the other heroes are stronger, and other heroes are gatekeeping these heroes. So we don't need to buff these heroes, nerf the other things. And I think Kiriko strikes of that, where it's like, we don't really need to buff Kiriko. Maybe you just need to look at BAP meaningfully, so that like, if you're running Kiriko against their BAP, you're not just auto losing in value because their BAP is just doing 5 times more. So I think it's
just
like,
harder to play.
Yeah,
She's harder to play, and that's not like that. Your point there is like not. It is very indicative of this balance patch, and like the way they're balancing this is not a top-down balancing patch, and not a top-down balancing philosophy around the game. So it's I think this patch, I think Freedo said it earlier, is quite indicative of like how they view the current patch and the current balance of the game compared to win rates of heroes in various ranks. So
right. Okay, so the final patch note is activating Valkyrie for Mercy no longer disconnects Kadusha stats from a target. Mercy mains rejoice. SK, how do you feel about this one? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Yay.
Yeah, I think that's
The war has been won.
it's true.
They've
It's
been
true.
fighting for that change for a very long time. I don't think it makes like a balance difference. It's just satisfying.
Yeah, it's just a quality of life change. I do know since Overwatch 1, Mercy players have been asking for this one, so totally fair. Okay, so that concludes the balance notes. Do you guys have anything you want to talk overall big picture about the balance patch before we talk about some of the like other additions that are coming this season?
I mean, I personally prefer a top-down balancing philosophy over like what it feels like right now with a little bit of scattershot, just nerfing various things in different ways, like the BAP change, for example. I much prefer like a top-down kind of way of doing things personally, but obviously it's up to the balance team and like how they want to approach the game and how they think the game does best when certain heroes are balanced well. I think that's also a point that you could say is it's worth keeping in mind. The more fun heroes are, the more people likely to play the game. Like probably looking at the player numbers when Orisa was meta and like you had to perma play Orisa even at like lower ranks and when she had like a really high win rate. I wonder what the player numbers were like then versus like when maybe a Winston or a Rhine is meta or like, you know, X or Y or Z is strong, you know, that are more fun. So I think that's worth keeping in the back of your mind too when you look at balance and patch changes. Buff fun heroes, you know, maybe don't touch the ones that aren't as fun to play.
I like that point. I also think sometimes they have different goals, which they won't state. But like,
yeah, of course.
if there's a bad owl grand final queuing up in the balance, maybe they're like, boop, 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 like and attack those heroes. And then this one's like, well, the kids are going to be coming home for winter break, so let's make a bottom 90% patch because that's what it looks like to me. Like that's the anyway, but they won't say this.
Yes, it's probably a small factor, even if it's not a big one. It's definitely present when patch notes are being made, I think.
I'd prefer them not to be knee jerky, personally. I like the mechanics of the game to like make a little sense. Like let me like wrap my head around something. I actually get nervous sometimes a little bit when it's like, all right, now Winston shoots armor now. I'm like, well, hold on, this changes everything. Like I'm going to the theory board. You know what I mean? Like that's how my brain works with this stuff. Because I still feel like we're struggling to keep up with the rate of changes we already have. And I'm like, how about we aim at the gameplay we want to see as opposed to like changing win rates always. Like some of these heroes are like, it is what it is. It's like it's a easy hero or a viable hero, and I prefer new content to like dominate the novelty of the game. For the mechanics to change up if we're like, all right, now I got a new piece in the meta that I can think about where to place it, as opposed to like, you know, radically power creeping the game. But luckily this game is like pretty resistant to weird balancing. It's like the game still feels somewhat playable. I think most people would agree with that, at least like the diversity of the cast. I don't know what the heck they're going to do with the support role though, because like the reality of it is like it's only broken by top players. Like most players are still not good at support as like a concept, you know? So it's like what how do they fix that problem? It wasn't even necessarily that different Overwatch 1 either. Like you think about like the early days, it's like remember the first time you saw Ryu Jae Hong like consistently shut down a Genji, like wow, that's like eye-opening, like what a support can do. And I didn't even think that was possible. And now it's gotten to the point where, you know, we got people out here just saying like just run it down in DPS the whole time and heal sometimes. That's how strong your character is. So not sure.
Yeah, I think you make a good point about just how much it changes, and I think this countered with or coupled with the fact that like the frequent balancing coupled with the fact that you are swapping a lot. I think the individual strengths of the heroes are hard to tell sometimes, and a lot of heroes go by the wayside as unrecognized. I want to go back to what Eskay brought up with Hog, just to get some more hating in there, because I'm a hater by nature, which is that like nobody's realizing this guy's fucking giga busted, bro. It's just because Ana exists that we can kind of like, oh well, I shut down the Hog. But if Ana doesn't exist, or again another use of Kiriko, which we didn't mention but may well be relevant next season, is with Mauga. If you just want to sit a Kiriko babysitting the tank, you might be a lot of value. And it's like now the Ana effect doesn't matter so much anymore either. But like one thing I hate about the fucking new Hog is like how little counterplay there is to so much of his things, but you just cannot interrupt his things anymore, right? Like everything he does is now like uninterruptible. Because it used to be you could interrupt his ult. Can't do that anymore. He just goes like if you knock him. Like I played a fair amount of Sig, right? And obviously no one's gonna have sympathy with me because they're gonna be like, well, you had your fucking Sig meta. I don't need him to be meta, bro. But there's literally no counterplay anymore to fucking Hog. You can't rock his ult. And you can't rock his vape. If he ults you, you just die because guess what? You throw your shield up. Yeah. In a second, it breaks. You grasp, he fucking hooks you in your fucking free hook. And then he continues going, gug, 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 gug. You try to rock it doesn't matter. Like, he'll just get back up. So you're just fucked. He else you're fucked.
Yeah.
So, like, the counterplay, the, like, actual tactical element of it is gone. Where previously, actually, Sig Hog was a pretty skillful matchup. Because it's like, I gotta block his hook with my shield. And I gotta try and rock his vape. And I gotta try and rock his ult. Now it's just like, he farms you. Good luck. Have fun. Try playing a different hero, you chump. So it's like, and it's like that with a lot of things now where you just can't interrupt him. So it's just like, well, where's my counterplay? I know you're like, oh, Hog should have some counterplay. Where's my counterplay now? This motherfucker does whatever he wants. He just shrugs everything off. So there's my Hog rant. Eskay, how do you feel about the whole discussion overall?
I agree with. Well, I want to agree with your hog rant. I hate that they took away the counterplay with his vape. He just has infinite healing. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. If you don't have an honor as Zen, like that guy runs free forever. But for the overall conversation, like I don't. The problems I have with the game are not things that can be solved by like small balance patches. I think as long as the balance patches between seasons shake up what heroes are being played in the elo that I play, then I'm happy. Like we're playing Ramacha now and everyone's not Perma Sigma, like I'm fine with that. Like and if Baptiste was played less, I'd be really happy too. But like these problems that I have with the game that make it unfun are may not even be able to be solved by balance things like small balance patches or even big ones. So as long as it shakes things up, I'm happy.
Not to start an
Yeah,
entirely different podcast. Sorry, Jules. I just want to interrogate this a little
Yeah,
bit, and
yeah,
we can
sure.
come back to your thought. But not to start an entirely different podcast subject. But what are some of these things? Would you elaborate, Eskay, that you're kind of causing your unfun?
What are they? Playing DPS against just playing DPS now feels like I'm really short and everyone is 7 foot and I'm like I'm boxing them. Like it's so ridiculous. Supports just feel busted. Tank feels like the raid boss. I don't know. And then like you have to counterpick tanks in order to do something against them. Oh, I don't know. It's and you know what really frustrates me is the behavior of other players. People are flaming me in quick play for having fun. Like whatever, man. That's whatever. You're stupid. Whatever. And then what else? I've been getting a lot of super stacked lobbies, like 10 pros, 9 pros in games. And if you get the one person that isn't a pro, or the one person that like only plays Junkrat, and you're on Surabasa or something, then you just auto lose, and I hate that. Work with me here. I don't know. Just the behavior of other players frustrates me more than anything else in this game.
That's fair. I think that's a fair thing to bring up, even if it's not necessarily something that can be actively done, like you said. Jaws, what did you want to bring up earlier?
Well, I just wanted to just bounce off Eskay's point. Like, I think I'm in the same boat. Sorry, holy shit, there's a motorbike outside. I'm in the same boat of like, as long as they mix things up using the mid-season patch and like the new season patch and just make things fresh, I'm very okay with things being a little bit busted one way or another. Like, oh, we get a ram, we get a rhyme meta, we get a win. As long as we're not like perma stuck in like a sig meta for a whole season, a ram meta for a whole season, I'm completely fine with it being half a season's worth of content and like, hey, this is what you have to play at like GM1 top 500 level. Like, I'm cool with that. I'm very okay, because it keeps the game fresh. And like as a live service model, that is it definitely feels like that's what they're trying to do. And the patch notes that we just went over, it might seem the opposite of that because a lot of the changes were like, why? But when they do make big changes, and they have done this in the past, they do make them quite big, even if it is like frustrating, like you were talking about, and like with Hog being kind of dumb. Like, I'm cool with that for a little while, as long as mid-season there's like, hey, now we're playing a lot of Ryan. Now we're playing a lot of like X, Y, or Z, or like now you have to play Ana Zen in the backline because it's strong, or whatever. Yeah, as long as we keep doing that, that's good, and that's how a live service model should be. So there is some like props to the devs there and like making these big changes and like character reworks that do really shift up the game. On the small note on the Hog point, another character that is almost impossible to balance one way or the other. He's either shit or he's fucking OP because that character's design fundamentally belongs in Overwatch 1 with the hook, because you have another tank to tank the hook. In Overwatch 2, because you're a solo tank, he doesn't really imagine Hog being made now. There's just no way. There's just no way. Like the character itself is very one-dimensional. Hook in. There's more now with the playpen, which is a pigpen, which is cool. But yeah, it's a problem with the hero from like Overwatch 1 that's creeped into Overwatch 2. I think that's the main issue. And it's, unless you take away the hook, which takes away his identity, I don't really see him changing too much apart from him being like super bad or super good.
That's fair. Freedo, anything you want to add to this whole
Yeah,
discussion?
lots of anti-hog propaganda. Sigma sucks as a character. When I play against Sigma, it reminds me of playing against Double Shield, and I hate it. Mainly because he does all the damage things and has a shield. So yeah, I will hook you without counterplay, and I can absorb endless poke as Roadhog. You know what I like about Roadhog? You know what I like even most? More than playing him and winning with him is because I have limited skill in this game. But what I like the most is being right. Because people told me I was wrong about Hog, and I was like, no, he's really good. Are you crazy? I can outplay an anti here or there. It's a long cooldown. They just nerfed the cooldown as well. And this is what y'all get. Y'all told me that the Hog rework was bad. So a lot of these top analysts, we just forget about this. And I remember. The Pepperidge Farm remembers. And I was right about Hog. So you're welcome. That's all I have to say. I think Hog works in Overwatch too because like self-sufficient. It's like a different version of Mauga again. Like these self-sufficient tanks that sort of like play their position, and I don't know. I think it's how a tank should feel in Overwatch 2. Like they can actually contribute to a play style. Whereas previously in previous patches, it was like tanks were just getting rolled by everything, man. There just wasn't even an option. It felt like to me personally. Like support's my top role, but I've been addicted to playing tank and like learning a lot of the different characters. And so having a pick that's like, all right, y'all ain't working with me. I'll just go take my little junk rat position in a hole somewhere and pig pen and hook my way to victory. Like I like that as a component in 5v5 personally. And screw you shield plus poke character players. Sigma is so much more obnoxious to play against than Hog. I think Hog actually has counters, whereas Sig's like so boringly reliable. It makes me actually remember, like, man, there was a lot of shields in Overwatch 1 proportionally. Like you always had a shield in a game, right? And then now a shield's back in Overwatch 2. I'm like, shields suck, bro. They're like they're terrible. Like I like it on a main tank style character like Ryan or Winston, but please don't add like a ideal good damage and shield tank ever again. Like let's, I'd like another main tank. I saw some people complain about Mauga. It's like there's too many shooty tanks. All right, like maybe we'll get another old school main tank. I said male tank, I think. Main tank style tank would be nice, like a positional based one, teamwork based one. I'd like to see what their vision of Overwatch 2 style main tank. I guess it's kind of Ram, probably is that.
Junker Queen is a cool tank.
Yeah, but I mean with the
shooty,
shield,
but shooty. Yeah, she's shooty.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get at.
Right.
Like anyway, whatever. Just wanted to even
wanted
the
to push
scales
back. You
a
wanted
little
to
bit.
push back. You wanted to channel your inner unsalted salt. I get you. I will say you're just not in good company. There's just like 0 Hog players that everyone likes listening to. I will just say that. Okay, so that concludes the patch notes section. We'll just quickly run through again. I know I've taken a lot of you guys' time, so we'll just quickly run through everything else to get your thoughts on what we know is coming in this season. I think a lot of people are looking forward to season 9 more than like season 8 feels a little bit forgotten again because everyone's like, comp rework, when is it coming? Is it not this season? What is this? But I think maybe the most significant thing was the new weapon skins, the hard light weapons. At least certainly to me, it feels like a significant. We've never had weapon skins in Overwatch 4, like specific weapon skins. So I am curious of you guys' thoughts. Eskay, how do you feel about the new hard light weapon skins?
Lame, too expensive, don't care, boring.
Wait, do we know how much they'll cost?
No, but
okay.
It costs real money, so it's too expensive.
I was like, yo, Eskay's got some leaks. No, okay, that's fair.
Is it not comp points like the gold ones, or is it a separate currency?
No, it's real.
No, it's a purchasable
devs?
cosmetic. Yeah. It's a purchasable cosmetic. It's gonna be
I
interesting. Go ahead, Jaws.
I think it's good. I think this is something that Overwatch has been needing for a long time. Again, bring it more in line with like how other games do it now. Obviously, Valorant doesn't do like player model skins because CS had a little debacle when they introduced like character model skins, and like some were like darker armor than others, so you couldn't see them in shadows and shit. But like Valorant doesn't do that. I think having weapon skins, more customization for character is good. However, how much do they cost? That's the big question, because I do think I really hope they're not like legendary, near legendary prices. We talked about this actually on Plat Chat, but like if they are between 1,000 to 1,400, I think that's okay. Maybe a little bit less, depending on, again, like, but there are sound effects, like there's different things in them, so that it's a lot more than just like a reskin of an actual. It's not like a skin with a weapon, like you're not just getting that. There's like little bits to them, which is, I think, is important for like the evolution of the game as a live service. As long as they're not too expensive, and as long as you can buy them individually. I don't want to have to go in. Ana is one of my favorite heroes. I don't want to have to buy an Ana one and a junk one. I've been playing since 2016. I have like 3 hours on junk max. Like I have even less on some other heroes, like Ball. I have like 30 minutes or something stupid. Probably more on auto counts, but like I don't want to have to be able to get Ana with the Ball with the Junkrat skin. If they're individual and as long as they're fairly priced and like I think 1,000 coins, which is $10, right? I think that would be around the cost they should like, and that seems a bit expensive. But then obviously you compare lots of other games; they are way more expensive in other games. So if it's around 1,000 coins, I would say upper limit for me would probably be like 1,300. Then I think good, but more customization is always nice. So yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to it. And again, it's not only is it more customization, they can do a lot more with the skin as well. But if it's just the weapon, because it doesn't have to be tied to an actual skin and like the player model. So like there's a lot more flexibility for them to like play around with just weapon skin.
Right.
So yeah.
I'll play a little bit of a game of telephones, which is that I think chat is telling me that according to Stylosa, it's 1,200 credits for a skin.
1,200.
Does he have the info? It's
I don't
not
know.
official anywhere. So if that is, it's a leak.
If it's not official,
Well, yeah,
then I don't
that's what I'm saying. I think chat
Yeah.
is reporting that Stylosa is reporting that it's 1,200.
You can't trust the British, man. You just can't trust them.
It's true,
I'll
fuck
wait
'em.
until I see the figures.
Yeah.
I think here's my prediction for the weapon skins. I think that they've created a problem for themselves, and you're not gonna see weapon skins given to any heroes that have a mythic skin. Because what happens when you have a mythic skin with customizable sound and a weapon skin also making its own whirring and burring and murring? So right now we
I
have
didn't think
Reaper, Ryan, and Mercy, who are each don't have a mythic skin. And I think the problem is like, I mean, maybe because real talk, the mythic skins have been getting lamer every season, so maybe they'll just make a lame mythic skin that doesn't have a sound effect that you can add a hard light weapon to or whatever. But what happens when you mix your Cyber Genji noises with your hard light noises, and now like it's a cacophony of random skin noises coming, and you can barely hear footsteps?
My bet is that they probably just won't allow the skins on the mythic skins. That
Maybe.
is my bet. Because
Oh.
yeah, you are right. Like pulling the Cyber Demon Genji blade is going to sound different if it's a hard light version. Adding on, you've removed that sound effect, which is probably tied somewhere into the actual skin and like the code. Probably not. Like I'm even thinking of small skins like Tracer's comic book skin, which was one of the first ones that
Yeah,
had
the
a different
pow.
sound effect because it was like boom. Yeah, it's like a pow thing. I wonder how that's going to work. But yeah, I think with the mythic skin, it's probably going to be a lot more difficult to remove and isolate that single sound. And yeah, so if I had to guess, you probably can't use them with mythics. So it's only a guess though, like I said.
Yeah, I think that's probably the eventual solution to come to. My guess, they're going to dodge the issue for as long as they can. They're going to only make these weapon skins for people without mythic, which also
Yeah, maybe
solves the problem of like, if you had a mythic, you wouldn't necessarily buy a weapon skin. But if your hero hasn't had a mythic, you're like, my hero hasn't had anything cool. You might buy a weapon skin anyway.
From like a design standpoint and programming standpoint, you don't want to counter that place early. Otherwise, it's going to be like hella work and like fuck that shit. You might as well set a precedent now.
True.
I'd say you'd probably want to set the precedent now. Otherwise, there's going to be a hella lot of fucking bug fixing and like trying to sort out like a million different fucking skins and shit. So
True.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think someone said the hard light skins. That are we certain they have sound effects in their own?
Yeah, there's
is
the
what they
rhyme
said?
one. It's like whoom whoom. Makes
Oh, okay. So
cool
it's like a
noise,
lightsaber
yeah.
kind of thing.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty sick. I like it.
Got
Reaper's
it.
one as well sounds quite different from like original Reaper guns.
Would be super lame if they didn't, because it's like, well, this is a fucking
Yeah.
skin.
Oh, I
then.
agree.
Like,
yeah, I was just.
Yeah, they have to. That's like a baseline. Again, they're setting a standard for themselves now with a baseline of like sound effects on the gun skins. Like that has to, which I think is great. So
We mentioned Valorant earlier in the show, and I think that's something they get away with. It helps them get away with it actually with a lot of these skins, because in Valorant it's like so much of your gameplay is tied up in that rifle skin basically. So it's like having an entirely different personality. I haven't played Valorant in a long time, but they had the dragon one essentially, where it's like you kill the last person and all sorts of animations and stuff. So the weapon skins have a high ceiling to what you can change, I feel, without like transforming the character so much in a design point of view kind of way. Whereas they're kind of careful sometimes with skins where like they want it to like suit the silhouette, for example. Whereas sound effects, you can kind of imagine they can do whatever because it's just for you, right? It's like the enemy's not really going to notice so much that you have a weapon skin. Like it's not so transformative. It's going to like ruin their experience. Personally, I kind of like my cosmetics to be cohesive. So it's like I would want it to match. I don't know if this is just some weird OCD thing for me, but it's like I don't want like a weapon skin that doesn't look right on the skin I want to use, if that makes sense. And to that extent, I'm not so sure that I see natural pairings. Maybe this is like stylist Freedo coming out. I guess I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit.
Just
Whether
Freedo
I'm
in a game,
interested
like
personally.
Freedo in a game as an opposing player. Oh, that is not going with your skin, honey. Like you need to change that skin right now.
Yep. Talk about the fashion meta. I think we make a fashion meta tier list of acceptable
Ooh,
skins
there's
and
content,
gun
there's
combinations.
There's an idea
But
though, like the Valorant thing. They could you could do like if
yeah.
you did a team kill, if you get the last hit on a team kill, maybe there's like the whole
some
eruption
crazy
and,
animation,
like,
fireworks, the payload explodes. And,
yeah, literally, pew, 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 like
I don't know if they'll go that far.
a drop ship emerges and it's just like like someone hops out. It's
Yeah.
like good job. It's an idea. Eskay, let's move on now to Hero Mastery. So tell me, you're excited, I presume, for the Lucio Hero Mastery amongst the others.
I'm super excited. But I thought it was coming out at the start of the season. Turns out it's coming out in 25 days from now. And the latest one, the Echo, is coming out in like 40 days or something. It's a very long way away. But they also removed the Hero Mastery leaderboards. So every score before this season is gone.
Oh, really?
They said they'll bring it back, but I don't
What?
know why it's gone. And they didn't say when they'll bring it back. So I don't know. Really weird stuff. And there's still one big problem with Hero Mastery that I want to bring up that hasn't been addressed, and I imagine it's very difficult to address, is that the people in certain Hero Masteries are being very secretive. When you get a really good run, it's like taken for granted that in every speedrunning game, it's posted to a leaderboard and you can see what they're doing. It's not like that in Overwatch. Someone can put like 150 hours into Mercy Hero Mastery recruit mode, super optimizing every single thing. And you, like starting out, if you want to start competing in Mercy Hero Mastery, you also have to put in that absurd amount of hours. You can't just like watch their run and see all the skips that they've learned and catch up to them. No, there is no catching up. You have to learn and find every single thing. I find it annoying that you can't view the replays of the world record runs on the leaderboard. Mercy is the greatest example of this. There's not a single run in top 10 in any of the categories that is uploaded to YouTube. And there's also in Reinhardt veteran mode, two guys? There's two guys that are pushing it together and they show each other their strats. So they're like 10 seconds up above everyone
No
because no one
way.
else can see what they're doing. Yeah. It's just like annoys me. But then there's also people that are like super awesome. Like there's this guy named Carrier who has a world record on all the Sojourn maps. He just uploads it straight to Overwatch 2 speedruns. So because he's so confident in his run that he knows if like anyone knows what he's doing, they still can't beat it. Like he's that good. I don't like the secrecy. I wish it was gone and they were uploaded to the leaderboard. It's the only game that's speedrunning that's like this.
It's a very valuable point to bring up, and I think that like it shouldn't be so sus. Like it adds an element of suspicion as well, because you're like, well, what's this guy doing? Like, what are they doing
Yeah.
that no one else is doing, right? Like it just kind of defeats the spirit of it. Go ahead.
It also puts you at a really big disadvantage because I stream all my Winston runs, so whenever I find a time skip, they get to see mine, but I don't get to see theirs. So
Yeah, it just kind of
Yep.
defeats the purpose, because the idea of a speed run is kind of to be like an open competition, right? It's like meant to be like
Yeah.
everybody come and see if you can beat me or them or whatever, right? But like if it's like this guy's like doing it behind closed doors and then like everyone else is trying to do it openly, then it becomes a bit lame. So I think seems like
Yeah.
something they could just make it so that you can view the replays of the top 10 or something. That could be
That would be really nice, but probably really difficult to do because replays like get deleted every patch.
true. But maybe it wouldn't need to be for Hero Mastery, because the reason patch stuff gets I'm talking on my absolute ass, but I assume that because patch notes change things, then you can't replicate it in the replay viewer. But with the replay, Hero Mastery, they're not changing anything, so it shouldn't matter. Maybe they could make like a like the Overwatch League viewer. Maybe they could make a replay,
Yeah.
Hero Mastery replay viewer, and then that like kind of
That could be cool.
exists on its own thing, and so you could just go into that and see the Hero Mastery replays.
Yeah.
Just spitballing. Anything else anyone wants to add on the hero mastery topic? Joel's a Freedo? No? Yeah, I think this is why I wanted to bring it to Eskay, because I know this is something you're very passionate about, Eskay. So
I love hero mastery.
yes,
We
I
need
think
to get more
you're
people into it. It's really fun.
yeah, I think you're one of the premier speedrunners in Overwatch, so I think it's great to have you here to talk about it. Okay, guys, last couple things then, just like Battle of the Beast. Probably not a mode for one of us, but has anyone played it, cared about it, enjoyed it?
So much
No.
fun.
I've not played
It's
it.
so much fun. It's my
Oh, it
favorite
is?
event arcade mode that's come out. There's just no reason to play it because it doesn't level up your progression for me. Or else I would still be playing it. 4v4 is really refreshing.
Oh, really?
And
Overwatch 3.
it's casual. Yeah.
Well, legit, this is again, Flats would be like, go with the 4v4, guys. 4v4 is where it's at. This actually reminds me that I think I saw on social media that you can't get Battle Pass EXP, or you get a very little amount of Battle Pass EXP for the PvE, which people were upset about. Sorry, Eskay, you had
Yeah, I
something
don't
to
know
say.
why they did that. No. Sorry, no.
No, it's just a thing, and I think people were upset that it seems to be lame because they paid for the PvE, so why can't they keep playing a mode they like and still get Battle Pass XP?
Yeah.
They're still playing Overwatch.
That's really
So-
weird. It's probably
Did I-
not even on purpose. It feels like they abandoned PvE as soon as they got all the money.
Well, again, that would be the cynical interpretation. I hate to always be spouting the cynical interpretation. I mean, they might literally have forgotten about it as a simple. We kind of have seen them reshift away from the PvE, right? Like they have just decided internally, like, yeah, no, actually, fuck that, guys. We're just gonna go back to being a PvP game, basically, right? So they might just have been like, whatever, who cares, kind of moment.
Yeah.
We actually haven't. That brings up that we haven't heard much about what they're doing in that regard, are we?
They said there was more story missions coming. It was like really harped on that there was more coming. But we haven't heard about any of them. And also, why did they delete Underworld? That was weird. That was like the only free PvE content and they deleted it. It's not there anymore. It was only there for a month.
Was that wasn't like just a Halloween thing? Not Halloween, but like
No, I thought it was gonna
Yeah,
be there
that was
forever.
just-
It came out with the invasion. It was the King's Row
Yeah.
missions.
And modifiers.
Mhm.
Oh, the modifiers. You're right. Yeah. What? That's gone.
They said it was gonna be there
didn't
every
realize.
week. Yeah, they said it was gonna be there every week with new
Oh, in a
modifiers.
cycle.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was gone after a month. I was waiting to get
What?
my title, and there was a break skin that I wanted to get from doing it as well. I didn't know it was gonna disappear. That was annoying.
I would bet
that
there's not the
seems
player numbers
strange.
anyway in the queue, because I
Yeah.
don't think there is for any of the PvE content, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
same.
Definitely
I
not.
had bots on my team one time when I tried to do it, and that was like a couple of weeks after release or something. I was like, oh,
I
might
got
as well
bots on
just
my team
try.
all the time,
So,
bro. Like, just
Yeah,
fucking
yeah,
play on my account.
that's kind of true. Bots and ranked.
To be
There's
fair,
a
I
lot
guess
of
I guess people. I think the people who are affected are the people who kind of stack with their friends and play the PvE. Because there's a community of people
Yeah.
who just like the PvE, just want to play the PvE over and over. So
It's
I guess
disappointing that they took it away. I
Yeah.
can't say I noticed, to be honest, because I did the PvE missions and we did the legendary runs and stuff, and then I went back to ranked. But it's kind of sad they took that away. That's especially it being a free PvE experience.
Yeah.
As like a taste test for like, oh, here's like a whole like lot of story missions. You can get a cool title and stuff like that. And yeah, it's not that great to be honest.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing.
yeah, it
Take
doesn't
back.
doesn't personally
Next
affect me
patch.
at all. I still haven't finished any of the PvE. I played one mission. That's it. I finished the first mission. I haven't done the underworld, so it doesn't
Dude.
personally affect me. But I do.
It's
I got to
dude,
bring it up for the
the
other
pay
people.
for PvE. I'm just saying that shit is fire as fuck. Me, Jake, Scott, and Johnny did nullify.
I know
a
you. I know
title
you guys did
legendary
some
on day one.
legendary
Oh,
shit. Yes, I know
day
you
one.
guys.
We
It
did
was
it.
fun.
It was. So
I
much
got
fun.
bored.
I
playing on
actually
my
can't
own.
wait, but they should announce it. Like, if there's more PvE stuff coming, I want to know. They should definitely be
Yeah.
leaking or not leaking, but teasing stuff soon, because it was a big aspect of Overwatch 2. Was like, hey, we're not giving up on PvE. We are just splitting it up and like making it a different experience from what like obviously Overwatch 2 was going to be back in like 2018, 2019, whatever the fuck. So yeah, that's I haven't really thought about that until now, to be honest. But they should probably start doing that, especially around the Christmas period, right?
They're downscaling it, I bet. They didn't mention it at BlizzCon for a reason. There's a good chance they downscale it even more. That's
That
my
would
assumption.
be very sad if that's the case. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe
so I hate to
they
break it
didn't do
to you,
the
but
numbers. Yeah, I mean, maybe it didn't do the numbers they thought it would. Obviously, we don't have that data at all. I know, obviously, all the streamers were playing it, like we were playing it, like all my friends, and like, the Overwatch League people were all doing their shit. But yeah, I mean, don't actually know the numbers under the hood, so that's potential.
Yeah. I think we gotta probably see it as an abandoned ship and like a no different than an occasional mini mode that we get in a new season. Like it's probably
I hope not.
the
Wait,
Sam's
did
not
they-
here for me to tell him, but I did start Tiny Tina's Wonderland. I'm like 2 hours in, and that is a very good game. In fact, I think Blizzard should consider making a PvE game where you have RPG progression and unique abilities. Maybe for Overwatch 3 they can do that.
4v4, baby, 4v4. Let's go. Eskay, did you have something to say?
Yeah, did they promise that you would get all future PvE missions when you buy the Invasion bundle?
Definitely not.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay,
It was definitely like just these missions is all you get, buddy.
I see.
I think they'll make more, but I'm curious if they'll go back to like the archives free version or something, because like I
Yeah.
feel like they'll probably evaluate the reception and performance of the $5 thingy as a miss, would be my guess, because I'm happy that a lot of streamers liked it. It feels to me like only streamers liked it. That's my opinion, my real opinion. I think it was terrible, like unplayable. Not a game.
Whoa.
Not worth money, basically.
Whoa.
That's for sure. Yeah.
I
That
don't-
is a strong opinion.
Really
I
don't
thought
like it.
no,
If
I'm
it was
inclined to
actually
agree.
$5,
I'm
I would have
inclined
liked
to
it,
agree.
but they made you pay 15. I would say it's.
And I
don't
love
like
Overwatch
that.
too.
That's
Like
not bad.
I'm addicted to the real game. I love it, but the PvE was like
It
I
definitely
give it a
doesn't
D.
sell me on Overwatch 2. I'll give you that. But like, because I barely play single player games, to be fair. Like,
Yeah, same.
so for Overwatch is like that's not the selling point. I'd still play Overwatch. So I mean,
What?
maybe it
I
wasn't
think-
worth 15, but
I think those are the two probably key differences. Because, like I said, I agree. I got bored, but I was playing it solo, and I also play a lot of single player games. So I had two distinct things there, which are like, I've just played. I just come off the back of playing several better single player games that even for $15 I could get better versions of this. And B, playing on your own is super miserable. You're just like, this is fucking shit.
It's very different. Yeah.
I'm just mindlessly fighting bots as my teammates do whatever. I 100% would get that if you play with your friends, if you're into the lore, if you want the challenge of the legendaries, great. But I also would hazard, as Freedo said, that the vast majority of players don't fit in that category. They want to be able to hop in, play on their own, and find a fun experience, and they didn't find it. And it was speculation. The devs might be like, you're way off base. But my speculation is that they just looked at it and were like, the cost to investment, like return ratio is just not there. Like the amount of dev hours we put into making these versus how many people are going to buy them. Just make one hero that's so much lighter on dev investment, keep the PvP running, and make skins. Like that's just way better for money than making a whole PvE experience that could flop. Anyways, we
Makes
kind of
sense. I agree.
we got a little bit sidetracked there. Let's go back to then concluding thoughts on this season and what you're kind of all looking forward to the most, and any hopes of things that maybe haven't been announced but might come. So, Jaws, we'll go with you first. What are you kind of excited about, or if you are, and is there anything maybe you're like, if they could add this as well, that'd be great?
for just this season, God, I'm just looking forward to playing the game. I'm going to be honest. I'm a very simple man to please. I'll be real. Like, I just want to be able to play the game and it'd be fun. And I think right now that's it's scratching that itch. I do wish they added and would continue to work on, although they are doing that with the whole Emerald weapons, with the new competitive points, whenever that's coming out. I do wish they would continue working on that and like adding rewards for if you made it to Diamond, you get the title and you get a player card. And then if you make it to GM, you get a weapon charm and like whatever, you know, like just more little incentives for ranked players. Again, it's a very small section of the player base, to be honest with you, especially as you go up and up and up. But I think those little things would be kind of nice to have in the near future. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's too much looking. I mean, I'm excited to play against Mauga, I guess. I think that'd be kind of fun. Working out to play against him, as long as, you know, I just had a discussion with Hawk as well about him talking about how strong he actually is compared to comps and all this kind of shit. And like, yeah, it's sounds like it's going to be an interesting time in ranked, but it's a new experience. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's definitely fair. I appreciate you kind of just being like simple, straightforward. Just give me good shit and I'll play it.
Yeah.
Eskay, how about you?
Um, I'm indifferent, happy as I am with every season. There's nothing that I was like, whoa, so amazing. But I'm happy. New content, new heroes, fun. Balance shakes things up a little bit. Lucio Hero Mastery will be cool, but it bothers me that it isn't here now because it's definitely all ready. Just waiting for season 9.
Yeah, I think that is unfortunately perhaps the hangover of it, where people are waiting for that next thing. Freedo, how about you? Currently
With these 2
excitement and
months,
what? Go ahead.
yeah, the 2 month seasons are kind of short though. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're at season 9, blink and you miss it, and it's going to be there.
True,
That's how I
true.
feel anyway, as a player of this game. But like the season 9 changes, ranked overhaul, and the queue restrictions. I've been playing more with friends as well, and that is definitely the way to experience Overwatch, especially in the the counter stratathon. Like, it's somewhat punishing for solo queue, I think, in some ways, where you have to outskill harsh matchups, and that I can see would turn people off. But I play a bit, like 50-50, I think, solo queue and with friends. So I look forward to not having to play account roulette to figure out how to sync up with someone in season 9. Otherwise, like, I sort of feel like I can't complain much, because a lot of exactly the thing I always wanted for out of Overwatch is what we got now, where it's like lots of strategies viable and a lot of strategy to it. So I enjoy playing. I'm interested to have another tank option to go in there and um, solo queue Scrandy some value off in Mauga positions. And the tank role is like so different now, like in so many ways. Overwatch 1 to 2, like Overwatch 1, you really had to always consider the like team implications of everything, and now some tanks do that, but there are some tanks that are just like, I just do my own thing, like, and go and wreck things. And I think that improves the playability of the game, even though maybe from a competitive standpoint it's either like broken or not viable, and from like a team point of view. But that's okay. I don't know. It's cool. It's like a very doable world to live in for this game, in my opinion, as we compete against all these other shooter games. Like, we've got the clown car of mechanics in this game. Like, it's like I feel like I truly love this game in a way where it's like I love all of it. Like, I don't just want dive meta. I like dive meta, but like I like all the chaos as long as it's not too easy. The only time I get upset is like when it's too stagnant or too easy. And as long as they crack down on that, I'm like a pretty happy guy. And that's how I feel about the game right now. So, having a good time.
That's great to hear. I genuinely, I think a lot of people assume that if I was to be like, I'm not really enjoying Overwatch, then that would mean I would somehow root for the downfall of Overwatch. But I'm always really happy whenever people come on the podcast and they tell me that they're having a good time. Like, I'm always happy for people to be having fun playing Overwatch. I want people to have fun playing Overwatch, even if I'm not always. I think for me, what would kind of help, like, or not necessarily help, but like it would be nice. Like, I would like a streamer mode, because speaking of like playing with friends, for example, I queued with Sushi the other day for a few games, and like after like 5 games, she was like, "SEB, the lobbies you get, I can't with these games you get," just because like we queue into a game, some guy's like, "SEB, I'm gonna fucking diff you right now," and then another guy's like fucking dropping slurs or shit. So it's just like a whole difficult world out there. So that would be nice. And I think the stuff I'm excited for that they haven't announced would be more collabs, because I think that kind of stuff is fun. It always adds like a nice bit of vibrance to the game that doesn't always come on its own. Like, I just saw Apex announced a collaboration with Final Fantasy VII, which is really cool. And like,
Insane.
it looks
Wow.
really awesome. Yeah, it's really, really awesome. Like, you can get like a Cloud skin for one of the characters and like an Aerith skin, and like, so it's really, really cool that they would go and tie up with another game like that. And like, I think I don't know if that's an avenue Blizzard are exploring. I'm sure when Microsoft comes through, they'll very keenly push that kind of idea anyways. But stuff like that is so cool to see, and I think it like reinvigorates both communities, right? Like, Final Fantasy players will want to try Apex players will want to try Final Fantasy. It's a big win for everyone, I think. So I'm sure they've all been quietly excited, the developers, whenever they talk about collabs, what's coming next. So I do think they'll cook. I do think they'll cook with what they bring out. So again, I don't necessarily like Eskay think there's anything that can immediately solve my just not getting the same kick out of Overwatch, and I accept that. It's like that's not Overwatch's problem. It can just be a me problem. Like, you know, I don't always have to enjoy every season of Overwatch or whatever, and I'm very happy to go and play a bunch of other games. Thinking about trying Fortnite, actually. People keep saying that shit is good, so I might put a week into Fortnite, see what happens. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the out of game stuff. I think that'll be fun. But is there anything else you guys want to bring up before I let you get going? Anything else you haven't expressed that you want to? No?
I think so.
All right. Well, thank you very much to Jaws, Eskay, and Freedo. As always, Freedo, joining me on the podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed listening to our thoughts and our rambles. And as always, please give these guys some love. Go support them on various platforms where they're prevalent. You'll see their links if you type their name in chat with an exclamation mark before it. So thank you to you guys. I really, really appreciate you giving me your time. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.